No, we don't have Joe McDonough yet. Well, but we have more than a quorum, so I guess we'll get rolling and Joe will join us. Hopefully. I have not heard from anyone about not being here, but that'll be Joe McDonough. I see we've got Joe Huggins. I don't see you there. All right. So I guess roll call vote to call to order because we are hybrid. So let's do that. Mark?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Marianne?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Emily?
Yep.
And Joe Kernan, yes. And I don't see Joe McDonough on Zoom, so.
Nope.
All right, so just going over the agenda real quick. We'll have an opportunity for public comment. Not that I'm expecting much given the rest of the agenda. It's time to reorganize. It's a new fiscal year. We have liaison reports and liaison assignments to cover. We're going to get some information about the funding status of past and current large capital projects. This is something we talked about in our last meeting. You know, what's the leftover, what's the delta between what town meeting approved and what we actually borrowed and what we actually spent, those three numbers. And then planning for the financial forum is the big one, since this should be our last meeting before that, I believe. And likewise, we could talk about other meeting schedule and future agendas. And then, yeah, we have the opportunity to talk about communications from the select board. I don't think I have much to say on that, but we have it. It is on the agenda if select board liaisons wants to share or anything. So, all right. So, is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Members, everyone in this room is town staff or committee, but. I don't see any hands on Zoom. All right. Now, I did hear a request before the meeting to take the funding status of past and current large capital projects out of order so that Joe can go somewhere he needs to go. Does anyone mind if we do that now, or do we want to do reorganization first?
Do it now.
Let's let Joe go.
Let Joe go.
All right, so we'll take the item on funding status of past and current large capital projects out of order. Let's talk about that now.
Joe, do you want me to start, or do you want to just go over the stuff?
Yeah, you can start sharing then.
So in your packet, I ran you the capital projects, the active capital projects that we currently have. The first one we show is the Center for Active Living. We have not done a borrowing for that. We did an internal borrowing with the select board last week. I apologize if it wasn't clear that that was what I intended to do. I think I mentioned at town meeting that the excluded debt for the Killam and the Center for Active Living would not appear on your fiscal 26 bill because we intended to do an internal borrowing and then borrow in January, so there would be no principal or interest payment in fiscal 26, giving people like a year to kind of prepare for that to hit. And so you'll see that there's no money collected for the 27.9 that we authorized, but we did do the internal borrowing that just gives them the cash flow to get started. And in January, when we borrow, we will pay back our reserves that we borrowed to get started.
So when you say we didn't do 27.9 in internal borrowing, did we? Because we don't.
No.
Okay.
We just, based on whatever the cash flow was
Yeah,
coming
well,
from the OPMs is
We
how,
only had a
based how we
certain
had to
amount
do
of
it. Yeah. And
expenses so far. Okay.
yeah, and we were just trying to tie it out, trying to get them all to actually be at the same time, all borrowings. We needed to borrow for the field house floor in May to get them started in June. And I had hoped we'd have Birch Meadow Phase 2 ready to go, but there were some concerns that maybe we didn't ask for enough money and they didn't want to borrow it and then have people not be happy if they needed more money. And it ended up working out, but I didn't know that until after we did the short-term borrowing.
Something in what you said sounded like we borrowed internally.
So we borrow a large amount from our reserves, more than we normally would, and it's kind of just the way we structured it to try to do more capital in fiscal 26, because moving those debt payments out makes it so that at November town meeting I can take on more capital. It also made it so that debt exclusion would not appear until fiscal '27 on the residents' tax bills. And it really made it so we could do a little bit more in the capital area because it's 5% debt and capital, and having moved those debt payments out a year, you're able to do more. And we were kind of in need in that road paving area. We were kind of low for fiscal '26. So that being said, looking at Killam, you can see kind of our progress.
Sorry, you go ahead, John.
On the recalc, the internal borrowing, if that money has been spent, would it show up on this report?
Yes, whatever's been spent would show up on this report as of the day I ran it. So no invoices have been processed against it as of yet, but we just did the internal borrowing last week. So they shouldn't be spending, I don't let them start the project until I've borrowed or we've done an internal borrowing. There has to be cash when it comes to like a debt authorized project.
Because recalc authorized a couple of invoices last week, I think.
They haven't been paid yet.
They haven't been paid yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I ran this report last week. It could have gone through a warrant this week, but if there's nothing here, I ran this report on August 7th.
Okay.
So nothing's happened
Spending
yet.
from that internal borrowing would be out here.
Yeah, it would come out of here. It would keep track of it here. And then Killam is, it has a lot more going on there because in there is also the $2.2 million for the feasibility and schematic design and all of that. You can see where we are thus far. You can also see how much money we collected from the MSBA thus far. Then we have the Fieldhouse floor, which is why I have Joe on, because there were a lot of questions about hearing that the bids for the floor had come in under $3 million and asking me, why did you borrow $3 million? And Joe had said he needed the $3 million, and he's going to go over kind of what the costs are that lead up to me borrowing $3 million instead of, I don't know what the bid came in at. I'm never at the table for the bids, so I don't know off the top of my head what the bid was. But there were other costs related to this floor that had to be taken care of as well. Joe, do you want to jump in with that?
Sure, thank you, everybody. So, when we initially put the design package together for the fieldhouse floor replacement, which includes new bleachers, we knew as a group on the school side that we would like to see some of the athletic equipment that's in the fieldhouse get replaced. And when I talk, I'll be talking about that in a minute. So the bids came in at $2.683 million for the project. We executed 2 change orders with Capital Carpet and Flooring, and the reason we did that is because these are directly related to flooring, the flooring part of the project. One of them was the school department wanted a new logo put on the center court of the floor with the Reading Rockets logo, as well as side curtains, which is a safety thing on the bleachers when they pull out completely, and logos on the front of the bleachers. It just gives it an overall better appearance and a finished look out there. The other thing we put a change order in for, which was change order number 2, was for a cord covering. And as everybody probably knows, this flooring out here is now a maple floor for the center court. We depressed the slab. So we wanted to make sure we protected it, okay? So what we did was we ordered that through Capital Carpet and Flooring also to get a protective matting that will be stored on large rolls that can be unrolled and pulled out over the center court. So for things like voting, any school functions, we do a number of things out there that you're going to want to protect that floor so that it doesn't get scratched or damaged or anything like that. So we also had a small change order in the amount of $5,750, which was outside the scope of work for testing that we decided to do when we compacted the slab. After we did that, we had our structural engineer come in to make sure the compaction was good, that when we put the new slab in, that everything was as it should be. We also took advantage of the opportunity to paint the inside of the field house, which we were never going to have another opportunity of. And when I say painted, it's from the floor up to the bottom of all the windows that go around the 4 walls. And that has not been done since the renovation in 2006. And that was the small amount of money was $17,500 for that. We we have electrical work that we had to do as part of the contract. We decided it would be a better way to do it to have our electrical contractor that's contracts with the town of Reading do it separate. And when I say separate, it's part of the project, but it's not a change order, so you automatically save money by doing that. That was this $14,000 job, and that's to provide power to the bleachers, which are now fully automatic. So basically, instead of pulling them out by hand with a cart that's motorized, we can pull them in and out much easier. It requires less manpower, and these bleachers are heavier than the old ones. We also took the opportunity to get in there and do a heavy cleaning of all the high ductwork and all the beams and everything, so that nothing would fall down on the freshly, installed surface. And then we had everything covered. If you were to go out there right now, you'd see everything is still covered mostly in plastic, protecting what we did. So we felt like, again, that was a worthwhile thing to do under the project. Another couple of things that we did outside the project, under the contract, I should say, was we ordered new scoreboards, which are, again, are original to the 2006 renovation. We got new scoreboards for both ends of the field house, which are brand new, which are going to be going in probably in the next 6 weeks, I'd say. That came in at $34,000 for that. And then we also took advantage of replacing the original backboards on the center court, which are from 1970. On each end of the court, we replaced the both. Those haven't been put in yet, but we're going to be doing that. New backboards, a new batting cage, and we're doing new divider curtains. Now, the divider curtains are kind of a key thing because they can sort of cordon off the main court and then the two practice courts on each end. The ones that are in there right now are in rough shape. I mean, the place gets heavy use. Right now, we're looking at around $37,776 remaining. There's one last piece we need to purchase, which is going to be a new piece of equipment. It's an automatic scrubber, so we can clean the floor. The new surface out there is different than the old surface. It's 13.5 millimeters thick. The old one was 6 mil, so we're going to take advantage of that. But it's a little more porous, and we need to get a new machine that can actually clean it deeper out there. And again, that's something that is important to the care and upkeep. And so we're probably going to come in with around 15 to 17,000 remaining when the project is done.
So Joe, so everything that, from the 2.68, everything else that you listed in there, when you net all of that out, the pluses and minuses, you're left with the 17.
Roughly, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. And we were, we're very caught. Go ahead, Jane. Do you want to say something?
I did want to say something, Mr. Chairman, with your permission. One thing Joe's not mentioning is the town named him the OPM of this project because it would require an OPM, and he has the qualifications to do the OPM. We have 2 major other projects going on, but he was able to OPM this project, which is a savings of about 9 to 11% of the whole project cost. So just want to put that into your mind
He's
as
not
well.
receiving any extra money to do that.
Yeah.
We're going to pass a hat, Joe, just so you know. That's why we took you out of order.
Well,
But,
I'll
yeah,
take
it's a
that.
big savings.
Let me come on early as payment for now. How's that?
Sounds pretty good. We're getting up pretty easy. Hey, Joe, another question?
Go ahead. And then you should let someone else talk.
Yeah, exactly. How are we looking on timing, like, for the floor, like with school starting up?
We were a rough start to the project. It was one of those things where there's not just one contractor working in there, there's 5 contractors working. Capital Carpet has been doing a great job. They've really stepped up to the plate. They've been working till 6 o'clock every night. They've been working weekends. We're hopefully going to be turning it over on August 27th with a little float if we need it, which is the 29th, which is a day off of the school department. So.
Thanks, Joe.
If people on the...
So if I do the subtraction right, so there's an addition, above the 2.68, you've spent another about 300,000 in the additional
Yeah, that's
things that you've got?
correct.
Okay,
Yep.
about
And again,
10%.
we did this, and not to interrupt anybody, but the reason we did it the way we did it is because the bidding is really volatile right now, and we didn't know where we were going to come in. And luckily, the bid came in favorable, and it enabled us to do sort of the wish list items that we wanted to do as part of the project. So we were able to take advantage of that.
I'm trying to decide what I think or what I want to ask about here. I mean, on the one hand, you know, a lot of the things you talked about are sort of, obviously would be part of the project if at all possible. Like, for example, like cleaning and wrapping the ceiling so that you don't drop stuff on the new floor. That's, you know, or painting behind the bleachers before you put in the bleachers. I mean, there are other aspects that seem, and okay, maybe if there are backboards that are older than I am, then I can imagine there might be a safety hazard, and would want to see that addressed promptly. The old scoreboard did work, right?
They did work, but they were not working reliably from what we've been told by the athletic department over there. And the new ones will be an enhanced version of what's up there right now. They're going to be a little bit bigger. So.
People, one of the, I should say this before we reorganize, one of the hazards of being FinCom chair is that, you know, people come to you when they need money for things, often much smaller money than the kind of money we're talking about here. So there's a lot of stress about, you know, $10,000 here and there. So I understand why people would be concerned about $300,000.
No question.
Go ahead, Mark.
If, just say that the bids came in at like, you know, 3 million, and then you still had these other things you wanted to do, would the process have been you would have gone back to town meeting to get these other things?
Yeah, we probably would have had to come back and talk to Sharon about another capital request to do those things. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
and then, is it safe to assume then, Joe, if we did that, you know, to kind of follow on to Mark's comment, that it might not be at the same, you're taking advantage of the time that we're doing it, so you're getting competitive and better costs while you're doing it, while you know, the project's open versus having additional costs to do it after the fact?
That's correct.
And I guess I don't object to anything you did. It sounds like a great collection of things to get done. I just wonder how we can better explain this. You know, when we had the vote at town meeting to say we want $3 million to do the floor and the bleachers, how do we tell them, and by the way, if the bids come in favorably, here's the list of other things we will try and squeeze in under the $3 million cap, so that people really understand that what the full scope of everything that we're going to get done here. And I don't know whether somebody would have said, you know, yeah, the scoreboard would be great, but, you know, I think something else would have been a better use of that money. And, you know, how we get that feedback from the voters. You know, maybe something else in Birch Meadow Phase 2, you know, we could have done something, maybe we need new backboards for the basketball hoops outside rather than the ones inside. And, you know, how do we present all of this to the voters in a way that says, okay, we definitely are doing the floor and the bleachers, and if we have room, these are some other things we want to do.
I do like the idea, Karen, I see your hand by the way, I don't want to respond to what Jeffrey just said there. You know, I do like the idea of trying to be explicit with this with town meeting, because I think that, I mean, if you said, you know, we're going to spend this money and, you know, you list out the nice to haves, and if we don't get to have them, so be it. You know, I think, it's not that I think town meeting would say no to that, I think it's just that people are you know, concerned that, you know, they feel like they voted for one thing and got another. And obviously that's not an impression we want to give anybody.
This isn't the first time, I feel like this has maybe happened on another project. I'm sorry. I didn't know the hands were up. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I see Marianne, but I don't know how long I've been missing Karen's hand on Zoom. So go ahead, Karen.
We should probably do FinCom first, though.
Okay, point of order taken well. No, go ahead, Marianne.
No, go ahead.
You guys are right.
No, I agree. Go ahead. Make
I just
comments.
wanted to ask Joe, has this happened with other projects without incident where there's items, and these aren't like super tangential, these are basically improving the whole part of the project, and has there been concern raised? I feel like this, I don't know if this came up, we had lots of money left over from Parker Roof, but I
But then
thought
we
that...
voted to do, what else to spend that on? I'm sorry.
No, did we? Okay, that's what
Because it's outside
I
of the
didn't
scope
know
of
if
the
there was...
project.
Yeah.
That's because it was outside of the scope of Parker Roof.
All right, yeah,
I think that's...
Marianne didn't get to finish asking her question.
No, that's...
You can see where she's
No,
going.
but I guess that's my point. I'm trying to say is it customary in the way we do business in town that if things like add-ons to a project that aren't completely unrelated, like where we went and took this money and, planted flowers at the senior center, and I'm just making that up, where this is something that's within the same building and it's improving the whole part, that is it understood the way we do projects in town that I guess I'm just asking, Joe, you've done a lot before.
I've done a lot of projects in the last 20 years, but I will tell you that we're very careful when we get an allocation for money to spend. We would never take, for instance, like HVAC money and go spend it on doors and windows or anything
Right,
like that.
that's what I'm getting at. This was kind of part of the
We're
project,
very careful about
fixing other
that because
broken things.
So we're very careful how we do that. Like Parker Roof was an anomaly as far as I'm concerned. We hit the bidding just right on that, and we had to reclassify that capital. But we're very careful on when I do an ask with Sharon, I try to give up the town, and I don't want to be coming back to you or anybody and saying, give me $2 million to do a project, and then on bid day it comes in at $3 million. So it's very high. I mean, we had a design done with a cost estimate, and it ranged between $2.8 and $3 million for this project. It came in lower, which was unheard of. But we're careful if we're going to spend any money with residual funds left, it has to be related to the project directly. I don't know if that answers you.
It does. That's what I was getting at. You've answered it.
Yeah.
I appreciate, Jeff's point too, where these are tight times, but I guess this wasn't egregious. I think Andrew had something too.
Go ahead.
So what I just wanting to add that when you borrow, it's very specific what you can spend the money on. Also, Joe is a professional. They do a lot of quotes. They go through a rigorous process. And what happens sometimes is as the expenses come through and everything gets booked, there's a certain level of trust that we need to give Joe and his team that the money that's available, he goes in and he does what he does best. He does the service and he does it at cheap, because I guarantee you if you're going to have to rehire for all of those items, they will not cost that much money. They'll cost way more. So that's the economy of scale. You have all the contractors there, and that's why you have someone like a facility manager that you want them to make that call. You don't want them to get back and say, okay, let me go back and see if we can borrow for this. It's just not the way that business is done. I think that's the right way to do it. I think Joe's pretty good at that, and so we gotta be kind of happy that he's got the expertise on that. So that's a lot of that.
Yeah, like I said, I think the decisions that were made were correct. I just want to figure out how can we put that on the warrant so town meeting knows this in advance.
It's easier, Joe, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's easier said than done, because the other thing that you kind of, so if you, let's go the opposite way. Let's go to town meeting and say, we're gonna borrow $3 million, but we might need X amount of money more if we, so then the town meeting is gonna ask, why are you borrowing 1.3? Why not borrowing 2.5? And then if something happens, you come back to us. And then the other question is that could come up a lot is the bids that you're getting, are they correct? Is it scoped appropriately? Why is it such a big difference in price? It's all of those things that it's, it can go both ways. But I do understand what you're saying, and I think that it's mostly answered by, we're very lucky to have someone like Joe manage this type of project because he's got experience. If it was somebody else with less experience, then okay, maybe we'll be a little more careful, but that's my opinion at least.
Ed?
Yes, so just, I think, to Jeffrey's point, and to kind of carry on from what Andrew's saying, I think it can go both ways. I think you're right. I think it would be great in that presentation that we get at town meeting. And that was less, I think Joe and Sharon that did that. That was, and not saying that because they're not here, but that schools made that presentation. And it was really, and I recall because it was pretty recent, but they had the flooring expert and everyone else in there talking about all those different options. I think in that package, you could say, hey, these are other things that, while, that depending on what happens with the bid, here are what are they called, alts?
Well, they're called bid alternates or ad alternates, but these items aren't necessarily.
Yeah, but in that realm, like you could have that be part of it. The other side of the coin, I think, to Andrew said, but once you put that out there, and then if it doesn't happen, then you're dealing with a backlash of like, oh, why didn't you do that? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I think you're always going to be chasing, okay, well, you did all these things, you didn't tell us about it, but then if you told us about it and you didn't do them, well, why didn't you do them?
Because we didn't have the money.
Well,
it's an easy answer. But the bids came in at $2.99 million. We say, well, we didn't do any of them because we didn't.
So just historically, saying that we don't have the money, that's not going to go very far. It doesn't end there. Then there's several layers of hand wringing on the back end of that. I'm just giving the other side of the coin there.
If I can just add something, I think what I'm hearing is like, and this was a fairly complex project because there's so many moving parts, but I think what I'm hearing from you guys is how we're packaging it in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like that's really, and I blame myself for that because I could have packaged it a little bit different and mentioned all these other things that we were hoping for, but I think we all know what the intent was. But what I'm hearing is how it's packaged in the beginning so that people have a full understanding of what could be and what might happen, if you will. I don't know if that's correct.
Like reverse value engineering, if we get value, we'll add these things.
It's what we're doing. So I guess to sort of the point, I promise I'll keep it short, out of character. Marianne made a good point earlier about trust and how we do need to, trust Joe and Sharon and Jane and Matt and all the other literal professionals, what they do. And I think, the good thing that I would like to see come out of this discussion is, any tricks we can find to help, encourage that trust in everyone else in town. People who maybe don't get the benefit of getting to talk to these folks and get all the details like we do. So that's fair. Sure.
I just wanted to mention that the size of this project, like Jane had said, it would merited us to have an OPM, and Joe did that for us and saved us about the $300,000 that he spent on these extras. So we kind of traded that OPM in for these things that we needed. Do you know what I mean? Imagine having. Imagine having a brand new floor and having scoreboards that fail on you, and having old basketball hoops to go with your brand new floor. Like, it makes sense to put these things together and to protect this investment and have the covers and all that. I do think it's important that maybe we find a better way to present it to town meeting with the options. The thing I worry about is when you put things in there and you list the things that you could potentially be getting out of the project, people remember that list, and if they don't get them, they're upset. And so we got to find a way to make sure that we say, this is what has to get done. This is what we're looking for. We need this floor done, absolutely. And then if there's any nexus left, these are the things we'd like to have, and hope that sticks, that the nice to have is a potential add if we can afford it within the budget. But having that OPM come off kind of gave you all those things, you know?
And we took a similar approach to that with the pickleball project last spring, and we said it's going to be 6 courts, and then if we can, if the bids come in favorable, we'll add another court, and then we'll add lighting. You know, so that approach.
That was.
It sounds like.
Yes. No, I think that. I mean, I think that approach. That approach probably helped push a controversial question through.
I think so.
Because it did demonstrate the flexibility in the part where, you know, no, we will not spend. I mean, in particular, that we will not spend more of your money to get the same thing if things come in high. Other comments for the committee? Because, again, like I was going to joke that one of the problems being chairs are to put with Ed, it's worse when he's right. And then Mary, likewise, about letting the committee speak first.
Nobody else is.
All right, Karen, please. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks. A lot of good comments. From a historical perspective, when we did the library project, there were alternative nice-to-haves, and there was a committee that was well aware of them. I don't remember if they went all the way to town meeting, but since one of them was the Innovation Center, I do believe they did. So there is a precedent for this, and I guess, you know, I have to be really frank. I'm an upset town meeting member, and looking at 3 future projects where I don't want to have this discussion again and have these kind of surprises. And so, Joe, thank you for managing this project on time on budget, or within this budget. That is awesome. I have to be really honest, as a town meeting member, I feel like new scoreboards, out of scope. Backboards, out of scope. New batting cage, out of scope. New divider curtains should have been presented to town meeting. Floor scrubber, absolutely, that makes a lot of sense, should have been presented to town meeting. And cover for the floor, if we can afford it, makes a lot of sense, it should have been presented to town meeting. So, you know, if we had an OPM and a committee to manage this, an OPM would not just have made these decisions without having a committee vet it. And I'm really concerned, and part of my angst is that I have 4 or 5 official town committees fighting over $20,000, and the select board is being asked to consider override. So, you know, if this keeps happening, this is an untenable situation. And pickleball, that's a great, so pickleball is a separate project than the senior center. It was separated, it needs to stay separated. Pickleball, if pickleball needs to go out, and what we're gonna do is put it in front of the, if we commit to town meeting that we're gonna build pickleball courts and not spend more than X dollars, when the bids come in lower, we need to honor that. And we can, and I say this as a town meeting member, a resident, and a select board. We need to honor that commitment, because in my 22, 23 years of being a town meeting member, I have been assured every single time we went to approve debt that we're wording this up to this amount to cover us, and we've built in contingencies. And a comment was made earlier about trust, and this is just a breakdown. So, and we are in a very tight financial situation. So I'm just trying to say, we can't do it this way. There's nothing wrong. I'm sure these are all, none of this is like, oh, you know, we spent it wantonly on a frivolous things. They're all add value to that 50-year-old field house. This project came back to town meeting twice. There was no reason for it not to be presented more clearly, that optional things, you know, cover for the floor, a better floor scrubber to protect our investment. As a town meeting member, that would resonate with me, but I'm just, we're in a tough financial situation. Our approach to projects can't be like this. We have to show that we are delivering what we got approval for. We have to not spend every dollar of contingency. And certainly, we need to have an open and transparent process when we start doing out-of-scope items. That would just be my take as a kind of an upset town meeting member. But again, I don't want to disrespect It sounds to me like this project is completely on time, and so that is wonderful, and I appreciate how complex it was. So thank you. I appreciate a lot of the other comments you all made tonight. Good ones.
Any other comments on this topic? And this was, I think people might have had other questions for Sharon about money, but was this the only one that we needed to keep Joe for?
He's kind of involved in all the capital projects, so I was going to go all the way through.
Okay,
So that
all right.
he
Yep.
can tell us, like, if the money that's left over can be released to other projects.
Do not underestimate how much Joe does. Got it.
Yes.
Okay.
So the pickleball is here. Nothing's been expended yet, but you can see we've moved the $200,000 from the ice arena. And then this project looks like it's at zero. The West Street, we had moved the remainder of that already. Police station had...
Any bids yet on these?
On what?
Pickleball or
I don't know.
or anything?
No, pickleball will go to bid probably the January timeframe. December, January timeframe. We're still taking it through permitting with, CBDC, conservation, etc.
Did we lose Joe?
No, he just turned off his camera, and so it's
Okay, so if I...
it hides you. Zoom is confusing like that. Sorry.
He's had enough of us.
Okay, so the next project in the
Very
packet is
understandable.
the police station renovation. It has 130263 remaining. It does not look like it's got any invoices that we're waiting, so that amount I think can be, I highlighted it as one that we could transfer somewhere else at November town meeting.
So yeah, so I guess this is a question, it's kind of maybe a follow-on from Karen's. So on just using this one as an example, so that 130263, what happens? So like say if we're all done and dusted and that's left over, explain to me what the process is.
So it would end up
going forward.
needing to be a warrant article for town meeting to move the remaining funds from one project to another. So I'm going through them to tell you what's left, what we know is finished and left, and we know that there's no extra invoices coming in. When we know a project's complete and that there's no more invoicing coming in, that's when we can actually decide to say, okay, let's move all the excess that we have for these completed projects by way of a town meeting warrant article to another project.
This is a really small version of Park and Roof.
$1,300.
Now, we did one at the last one too, because for the Haven Street part, we had moved leftovers from West Street and other places to cover our part of that project. So that 1302, I'm expecting at November town meeting, I would want to move that. I don't know where, if we would move it to, take half and bring it to Killam and half, just so you have to borrow less, it's just basically, it doesn't change the authorization of those projects, it just means that I would borrow less, and this money was borrowed at a very low interest rate.
So is it the determination for, say for that 1302, would it be necessarily something that's debt exclusion outside the levy versus a project that's inside? Or like, do you have
I guess
to?
that's a good question. I don't think it matters because it would actually, it would reduce the amount of excluded debt I have to borrow, so it would impact the taxpayer in a positive way because I wouldn't be borrowing as much excluded debt and it would impact you less than it would have. So that's why I was like, let's go through and see what we got left, because I know some of them, like the library, when we get to it, has like over $90,000 in there, and I haven't been able to move it because it has to be, the project I move it to has to qualify for equal or greater terms in terms of borrowing. When you do a building project, it could be a 30-year borrowing. Some of these projects would not, most of our projects wouldn't qualify, would be a building project. So that's why I say Killam and Recal would be perfect for that particular one that's been sitting there for a long time.
It's fine. No, I think she mentioned it. But it's just they have to be similar projects with the same lifespan. It's as simple as that. But you cannot use funds that are, for example, for, let's say you borrow to replace the HVAC, for example. You cannot use that money for a building. two different things.
Right.
Okay, so then the fact that that 1302 was for renovations for the police station,
You can use it for renovation.
that
I thought it had to be equal or greater.
No, the amount, but
No,
he's-
no, in
he's
terms
talking-
of greater borrowing terms, so like anything, I
Yes,
think the
the
building
terms-
project could take
Correct.
on anything and
But
have left over.
what he's trying to get it is, what I'm trying to say is the use. So if it's for capital, if it's for a building, you have to find another building. It's,
Yeah.
and then the terms that Sharon is saying.
We're talking about
It's
two
very-
things,
yeah.
both of which matter. One is terms, where it's equal or greater. So obviously, the police station money was not borrowed on, Killam terms, but you
Yeah.
could apply it towards Killam because it's greater.
Yeah, yeah. The
Just not the
useful
other way
life
around.
of
But the
it.
library was borrowed on building project scale terms, and so it could only be
Yeah, I
applied to
couldn't
something.
transfer
Yeah.
that to our smaller scale projects, that
So, and
90,000.
I guess my other kind of follow-on question then is, as you do that analysis, so you're knocking those items against what's already in the capital plan as well. If we have if we're doing something in town hall, if we're renovating town hall, that money could be used if you're
Yeah.
if you're repainting this room.
Yeah.
You could use it for that, if that's in the capital plan. So is there a point in this, Sharon, where you kind of have these things and then you're presented with the capital plan, you're like, okay, well, we can start to net, there's some netting that goes on. Well, you know what I mean?
I could, but I tend to usually, because we borrowed this money, I usually tend to put it to another project that I would be borrowing for and reducing the amount that I would borrow. Some of this money we've borrowed at really low interest rates, and right now those interest rates are not nearly as good as they were back when we borrowed some of this funding, so it makes sense to reduce the amount that we're borrowing currently, rather than reduce our capital plan. You know what I mean? Like take things off our capital plan.
Yes, but I guess the distinction though is what we would borrow for excluded debt versus what we would borrow, for what the town would borrow to do a project, to do a renovation. So is it worth it just to keep these open?
Well, it's always an option.
Do you know what I mean? And just make the determination that this will help us because we're never going to see 2% rates for a while as far as what we borrow to. And so making that determination based on something like that versus, kind of looking at whittling away hundreds of, the Killam and recount debt is, this isn't really going to make
It's not going to make a lot of difference, but it's a nice opportunity to clean up these projects that are complete and have them be done and down to zero. And especially the one for the library, where the library has been done for quite some time. We just paid it off, and yet we still have $90,000.
that makes
So since I was already entertaining that one, I was like, let's just clean them all up and just move them. Yeah.
But the amounts are
Mr. Chairman,
small.
we have
They're
about
small
5 more
amounts,
minutes with
that's why.
Joe. Joe has to go to the next thing, so if you wanted to grab a project or that you could answer a question.
Well, the next one is the energy improvements has $17,977.73. Joe, is that done? No invoices coming? It should be complete, right? Is he gone?
No,
Joe is on the call, but currently muted.
He's muted right now.
I think he's answered this for me before, but I believe it's available to be, that it's complete and that money is available to be reclassed to another project, but I don't see him on there though.
Well, it's because Zoom hides him when he turns off his camera, yeah.
The Parker
I'm
roof.
sorry, I stepped away for a moment.
That's not allowed.
So, Joe, the energy improvement 2, phase 2 has $17,977.73 that looks to be available to be reclassed to another project if we wanted. And Parker Roof, again, has $30,000 available. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. But there is an encumbrance for $12,000 still out there for Parker Roof. So I didn't know if you knew anything about that.
Can we talk tomorrow about that encumbrance? That project is closed out, so
Yeah,
I think that
there's still a PO out there. I'm not sure what it's for.
That could go back.
Okay. And then Birch Meadow is that's the complex, so phase 1 and 2 is in here. That's still going. Building security has $13,996.56. That is complete, correct?
that can go back.
Yep.
That's closed, yep.
The Milletstone still has some stuff that needs to be charged there. Haven Street is still in process. Turf 2 has $882.
Yeah, that's a thing.
I think we're done there.
Yeah.
And then the high school turf and track is $13.29. That's really close, wow. And then the library has $90,662.69, but there's also $3,050 of POs still out there, which I don't know what those are for, but.
Yeah, that can be closed, everything can be closed.
So if I
out.
close those POs, then it would be more like 93,000.
Yep.
Okay. And that's all I got.
Perfect.
Other questions, especially for Joe on his way out the door?
I just wanted to say too, just a shout out to Kevin, the assistant director, because these projects we're doing, I would not be able to do them to the degree we do them, and we work really hard down there. But you guys have a great assistant director in Kevin Kabuzzi. This guy just kills it every day for the town. So just wanted to let you guys know he's an integral part of what goes on down there.
You know he's on, right, right, Joe?
Oh, is he?
There you go, Joe.
Nice.
He snuck in on there.
Okay, wow, that's, yeah, all right. Well, that's,
When he got off, I was telling him what to say.
all right. Thank you both.
All those serious now, I want to thank all of you. It's a pleasure working with all of you, and you know what we do, we obviously can't do without your support. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for coming out this evening. So,
Thanks, guys.
all right.
Joe.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
Kevin.
All right, so, yeah, we're done with Joe, but I don't understand how we can have $90,000 left in the library project if we paid the library off. I mean, in my mind, if you paid something off, you don't have that money anymore. You paid off the loan.
We paid off the debt with the money we borrowed, but we borrowed this money and that leftover didn't get spent, so it has to go somewhere else. We paid off the debt. We can't pay the.
So
We paid off the money that we borrowed. It's really hard to get a large project like that down to zero, right? It's really not easy. I mean, because there's contingency built into these projects. And if some things don't come to fruition that you don't need all the money, there is always going to be some kind of a remainder. And in that case, it was about $93,000. But that project was it's almost $19 million, I think, what was the project. It's less than 0.5%, I think, of what the total project was.
that's pretty good, 90K.
When you're talking big numbers, it's really hard to spend it all. But I would have needed a town meeting vote to pay debt with it, and it would be an odd thing. I'm not even sure I'm allowed to do it that way. Because capital projects don't pay debt.
So what would be viewed as a comparable project that you could move that 90,000 to?
A building project, which we haven't done one since the library, so it would have to be something I could borrow 30 years or greater.
So it could it go to the Killam then?
It could go to either one. I could split them 50-50 and move it half.
Yeah.
You know, if I were to clear all the projects that have been completed, I could just take the total and split it between the two projects, or I could put it all towards one or the other.
Right.
But where they're excluded debts, they benefit the resident because I'm going to borrow maybe a little bit less. But you know, it doesn't. It's not going to make a big thing, but it will also clean up our general ledger. And you know, we've been waiting to get rid of this 93,000.
But the 90K.
Yeah, that's the one that I really am more concerned about, because it's the first opportunity since we finished the
Section
library
90K, yeah.
that we could actually move this to something else.
I see Karen got scolded for not letting the committee talk first. Further, correctly.
I'm still struggling with this $90,000.
I would explain
They don't pay debt.
easy.
They pay for construction.
I don't know as much as these two, so maybe I should try explaining it because
I'll just say common sense. I'll just say this. So the contingency that they build in, for example, let's say they put
So I
in.
understand the money left. My problem is, we said we approved debt for a certain amount for a 10-year term, right? For the library was just 10, right?
Right.
So we said we want, I don't know, 12 or something million dollars, right? So, and you issued that debt, which means we were paying interest on the full, whatever it was, 12 something million dollars. and there's $90,000 that, I'm trying to figure out where, that was part of
That
the
would have been
12
contingency money that they,
But
as
was
they
it part of the
continued
$12
on the
million
project.
that you issued? So somebody bought debt from the town up to $12 million?
Yes.
And we had $90,000?
We can't prepay anything. When it comes to our bonds, we can't refund them like right away or anything like that. So when we realized we had this extra money, we couldn't actually refund it at that time. So it's not that I could pay the debt back with the money that was left over, because there's specific rules related to when I can call that debt back, when I can actually refund it or refinance it or whatever you'd want to do. But it's not enough money that I would even attempt it. I would have waited for a project. I mean, and what we borrowed for back then is way lower than what we're buying for now.
Yeah.
And we've been earning interest on this money, holding it in our account, like the entire time, investing it and getting returns on it the entire time. So it's not just been sitting there, it's been growing, if you think about it. 'Cause it's part of our cash balances, and we do CDRs and investments and things of that nature to get us a return on that money. So it hasn't been just sitting there. It might be on here for, $90,000 is what's left of what we actually borrowed, but it's been earning money for us as well as part of our cash pool.
So it's $90,000 we have, because we issued the debt and we got the money, and we stuck it in our bank account and it's sitting there. And then we paid off it, because the library's all paid off.
You got to
So
look
I'm
at them
trying
as
to-
two separate things, because we borrowed, it's almost like a mortgage on a home, like we borrowed to
Yeah.
do this renovation, and we had our set term payments, 10 years of payments to make. And that is separate and distinct from the actual capital project fund that I'm talking about. This is the project where, the capital project fund is where the building is happening. It's all the expenses related to the building, not the debt, but the building of the project. That's where the money went. That's where the borrowing went, is to fund that project. But I'm not allowed to pay debt out of a capital project fund. I cannot do that. I'd need some sort of special vote, and I'm not even sure you could do it.
All right.
So we have to transfer. Whenever we have money left over that we've borrowed for a project, it has to be transferred to another project, another like project. And I think it's nearly impossible to get any project of that size down to zero. I would say, when I just saw one for $8.82 for any of these projects, like to have that little left, that's remarkable, because they all have contingency, especially a renovation or a building project. There's going to be money left over if we don't experience any, major issues in the build.
And there was something about a similar or longer term?
So it has to be, like when we borrow for a building or a renovation, it could be a borrowing of 30 years or greater. Well, not every project qualifies for a 30-year borrowing. We borrowed for 10 years for the library project.
And so that 10 years has already expired, has run out because we paid it off. So I'm trying to understand why the term of that matters, because we've already had it for 10 years.
Because that's the money was borrowed. It wasn't free cash or anything like that. So we have to adhere to what did we borrow it for, and what did that project qualify for. Yeah. Like what terms does that type of a project qualify for? So even though we borrowed for 10 years for the library, it qualified for a 30-year borrowing. And so I need to pick a project that would be qualified for that same term.
Okay.
Even though you're not actually borrowing. Because you already borrowed it.
We lost Mark.
We lost Mark. I don't know. He had his hand up.
He might have been
John Sullivan had his
He may have
hand
been. Yeah, I saw John too.
He might have been,
just wanted to,
his hand might have been up to tell us that he had to go.
He may. Yes, I don't know what that was. I hope. I don't know if I have any text from him or something. But so anywho, okay. Well, he may rejoin. He may not. But all right. So I wanted to jump in there because we had somebody leave, and that's going to go in the minutes and so forth. All right. I don't know if you're satisfied with Sharon's answer yet, or if I should give John a chance to try to answer it.
I'm not allowed to pay debt out of the capital project fund. So that's the issue. So I couldn't just say, okay, I've got 90,000 left, I'm going to pay the next debt payment with 90,000 from this capital project fund and the remainder from our budget. I can't do that. I'd need some sort of a legal vote anyway, and I'm not even sure you could do it.
Cannot do that.
John.
Sure, is the interest we're earning on that money included in this 90,000 figure? or
No,
that's
no,
separate?
because
There's different
all
rules on-
interest is general fund money unless otherwise stated, and so it's not a grant or anything like that, it doesn't have to be separated, so it's part of our pooled cash. So it's been earning money for us, it's just not in that
It's just-
$90,000.
It's going someplace else, with
Yes.
different rules. about it.
Yes,
But
yes.
not-
It's part of that lovely line that's come in way above projection for a couple of years there.
Yeah, the interest
income line.
Is that regeneration then?
It becomes.
Right, when it comes in higher than projected,
I
it's
understand.
regeneration. Yes.
So it's regeneration.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, if I borrowed $10 from Sharon and I put it in a box where I'm only allowed to spend that money on people named Emily, then I'm gonna pay Sharon back the $10 I owe her, plus interest. And then if this Emily leaves, I have to find someone else named Emily to give that money to. That was a ridiculous example, but I hope that it actually, I mean, compared to a lot of state laws, maybe not.
So I think that's a great example, but I think this is going to help him, I think.
Okay,
So-
okay, you could try. But at some point, we gotta
So
let this
when you
go
pay
because we're gonna
that-
spend all night
When you
on
pay
this.
that, think of it as paying from your checking account, okay?
Yeah.
So when you pay from the checking account. And then you have a box that you have allocated, you said that you, out of this box, maximum that can come out of it, it's $10. And then Emily doesn't work, only works part-time. So she only will invoice us $8. So that box that you have $10
Real
now
reasonable,
has
right?
$2 left over. That's exactly what's happening here. That's contingency, 10% contingency. Those 10% don't always work out. That's all. So when we get invoices, you don't get invoices for the full amount. Some of the invoices are lesser than what was projected, that's all.
It's just weird that we have paid off the debt already, and there's still money left in that.
You
mean,
you pay
most-
off the debt with your checking account. And
You need to
when-
look at them as
in your
two
check-
separate accounts, like,
Right.
you have account that you pay your bills, your debt bills, let's say the loan on the property, and then you have another account that you're paying for building something, like building the library or renovating the library. And only expenses to build that property go through one account, and only the debt goes through the other account. They cannot be commingled because it makes it a very messy thing. You can't pay debt from a capital project fund. Even though that it's the very
The
reason you
capital-
have the debt.
The capital project fund came from the debt, but you can't.
But it can make it very messy if you're mixing in your debt
Yes,
payments
right.
in with it. It makes it a little bit more.
Plus,
Town meeting and state law have authorized you to
the
move that
debt
money one way,
payment
they
from
have not
that thing
authorized you to
is
move it back.
huge. I don't think it's 90K, it's probably
Wait, whatever. I mean, it's-
Oh, I
don't
mean,
know
the
if they have-
payments were, we did 10 years for, the one borrowing was 10 million. It was $1 million a year for the principal payments and then whatever the interest was. So, and then there was a second borrowing, and I want to say it was a
In a
little two or something.
library in 10 years is very impressive. Very impressive.
We have no excluded debt for fiscal '26, which is wonderful.
John.
It's kind of more general on all these reports. There's the year-to-date revenues and expenditures.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these projects are several years old. Was there more money spent prior to that, or is that year-to-date, or just like the project?
So when you're looking at these particular funds that I'm showing you, the capital project funds, those are considered multi-year, and so they're
Okay.
lifetime
Year
to
to
date.
date.
So from the day that
Okay. So
project
don't-
starts till now,
Okay,
because
so-
it will show you all that's happened multi-year,
It's-
because they're set up as multi-year funds.
So that is how far we're in the total project, not, there's no additional money that was spent before?
No.
YTD actual is a misnomer, it looks like, because we didn't
Which
pay
one?
the library. The year-to-date actual column title is a misnomer. We didn't pay the library architect $175,000 in fiscal year '26.
The library.
Oh, well, that happens to be the one I'm on because it's got the 90,000 that I'm talking about. But
I think it's one of the last
in any of
ones,
them,
right?
they have all of them have a year-to-date column that have
it's really
all these projects that we haven't spent a dime on in
Of course,
months or
the last one I
years.
guess,
Have something in the year-to-date actual column, but that's because it's the project-to-date actual column, not the year-to-date. Like,
That's right.
yeah. Okay.
These are the contractors, the biggest.
Yeah, but at the top of that column, the title says YTD.
Year-to-date is the way we use it.
that's
But
it. That was
really,
the question.
it's,
That was the
you gotta
question.
look at it, yeah. It's
Exactly.
definitely
Project.
all the years it's been there.
Makes sense.
That, I get what you're saying now.
Years. There's implied. Okay, all right, okay. It's you know,
Lifetime to date is
again,
what I call
John
it.
gets full marks for actually reading what it said, which is you know. So thank you. All right, I see we have. Looking around if anybody. Okay, Karen, you've had your hand up for the better part of a week. Go ahead.
Thanks. I'll be quick. I love finance committee meetings. Can I ask the question? So we had this $90,000, which if the library was about 1.8, so let's just say that's a half a percentage point.
Yeah.
And we have 3 big projects in front of us, and I'm extrapolating and hearing Sharon say how hard it is to close out projects, and wondering if there is a legal mechanism by which a municipality could sharpen the pencil around how much we actually borrow for. Say, just so that we don't end up with, it could be $500,000 from 3 projects sitting there for 10 years that we can't do anything with. It can't be used where we actually need it. So I'm wondering, you know, you could self-fund the last $500,000 of a contingency. It also, there is a pressure, having been on the library project, there was a pressure to spend every last bit of the contingencies. And again, we commit to the taxpayers that they're there if we need it. We're not wantingly spending it, but, you know, people are human, I get it. So that's why I'm asking this question.
So we have to balance the cost of issuance, which I told you is great. You know, to issue debt could be $50,000. And so you want to make sure you have enough when you borrow. You want to borrow as much as you can. And the contingency is part of what you're expecting. And so it's kind of hard to know, what to put there for contingency and borrow. Because if a lot of these projects, we only borrowed once. We went out and borrowed $10 million, and then we needed more money for the library, and we borrowed a second time. But most of the time, it's one time. And so you really have to be good about getting enough money so you don't have to go back out and issue again, because you don't want to pay $40,000, $50,000, $70,000 for an issuance. They range. And so it's a balancing act that we have to do, if you think about it, because that's a lot of money to pay to issue debt.
Yeah. I mean, just to be clear, there's always going to be another building project.
I would hope.
I mean, there is that was one of the,
We've been really good waiting until we paid off our excluded debt to entertain any others. But, every building is going to need work as time goes on. I would think that none of this money would ever be a waste. We would be using it towards something else.
We did this math, or someone did this math during the Killam discussions, where it was like, look, we got 6 town buildings and 7 school buildings or something like that.
That's right.
And if they
Every
each
7 years you should be doing something.
Exactly, and if they all last 50 years, then you're doing one of these projects every 7 years, so yeah. So, and if it's earning interest in the meantime, I mean, even if it is waiting 7 years because it just missed the window for one and has to go into the next one, and it's earning interest in that time, I'm not lost sleep over it.
And we are borrowing these projects like Killam and the Center for Active Living in tranches, so that would help us get closer to the number, because we'll get, further into the build and be able to discover some of that contingency that might be there if there is,
So something that Ken mentioned, and I wanted to just add to it. I think the best way to approach what Ken said is when these projects come up and there is the project manager or the team that's talking about it, when they talk about contingency, we need to be vocal and try to ask as many questions at that point and trying to question what that contingency is and what's it about. So I think the best way is to do that at the time of the project, in my personal opinion, because the way that the town does it, they kind of weigh, as Sharon said, the risk associated with it. It's a very big risk if your projects, if you don't have enough money to finish the projects. And the risk is you're going to end up paying more, you're going to delay the project, and it's going to end up in the news and it's going to look like the town did not know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, but to Ken's point is, when these projects come up, we need to be asking questions, we need to be present, and as Ken said, select board need to ask a lot of questions, we need to ask a lot of questions, so maybe that's the way to approach what Ken said, I guess.
The other thing too is just the environment that we're in with all the tariffs coming. There's so much uncertainty with the pricing of what we're going to need to build these, that the contingency absolutely has to be there with these projects, because if ever, I think we need to have contingency built in strong, it's now.
Well, as we go through the design process, the numbers get refined, right? So these projects are now going into design development pricing. And so, like at the 60% design pricing, they will get priced again in December before we go out to bid. And always looking at the market, always looking at what's happening. I think we lowered our contingency on pickleball because as we get closer, we don't need as much contingency because the numbers are solidifying, right? We're not further out. The Killen project's $500,000 a month in contingency. So, that's what we're carrying. And so those things change, and our OPM tracks that information. We'll be having more pricing conversation very soon on both of those projects, and they will be coming up in the meetings for those projects. So I encourage you to tune in.
So that sounds like what Ken is saying.
Exactly. No, it's exactly right.
I think we're on largely the same page here, so. Cool. Other comments or questions about this agenda item? I wish we had Mark here, because Mark was specifically asking me about this before and actually he's
As an agenda item.
As an agenda item, and let me be clear, I mean, we're obviously on RCTV, and so he can watch the replay and follow up with questions. He knows where to find, Sharon, Jane, Matt, and the rest of us.
So do you need anything from us on this, or is this?
I just wanted to, we did have that conversation at the last meeting,
Right.
just kind of making you aware of where we're at with some of these projects, and just know what we have remaining in these
But then
open projects.
you and Joe settled out which ones are done, and you can close
And
out.
then we can
do
plan
something else
to
with.
close it out,
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
So you'd see it as part of a town meeting article when we decide to do it, whether it be November or April. Would you want to do this as a November, Matt? Yeah, just get it over with and, put the money in
Right, I
there,
was
because
gonna
it
say,
gives
do
us
it-
cash flow as
do
well,
it-
because
do
it's
it
money that
before issuing any debt.
is already there. That we can just move to these projects and expand cash flow for them while we're waiting to borrow.
All right. That one first agenda item just took an hour.
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you did this for our benefit. We asked you for information. You provided it in great detail. I really appreciate it. And I suspect a lot of other people do too.
Yeah, I think it's better for us to know now too. It's always a better problem to have, to be able to have spare money for scope than like what we may end up finding a few years down the line with Killen, if prices are wild, that we have to start de-scoping things and telling people to back off. So these are really small potatoes compared to what could happen with that project, which I hope doesn't happen.
Very scary.
All right. Okay, so next on our agenda is to vote to reorganize. I believe the protocol is that I hand the gavel over to Matt for taking nominations for chair.
Yeah, I was in the box, I think.
No, there's no gavel in the box. We'd have to steal, I think Brian's probably still wielding the gavel
Once
next
it's
door.
on Concom, they steal the gavel.
It can be an imaginary gavel. It's okay. It's okay. All right. So yes, so I'm handing the mic, gavel, whatever it is, over to Matt.
All right, so I will open up nominations for Chair of the Finance Committee. Are there any nominations?
You can't say me.
Oh, but you can't see Emily.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
First, thanks, Joe, for your service. You were wonderful, and really appreciate all the work that goes into this. And if our current vice chair is willing, I would love to nominate her to be the chair of the upcoming year. If she's willing.
Thank you. I guess I discussed with Joe that I wasn't sure if my work has just become very intense, and I don't know that I'm up for it for this year.
Fair.
But
Which is an
I'm
excuse I've heard
honored.
from other people too.
Same.
So I think if Joe still has the time, it would be fine. And there's people, I think that I could say something different next year, but I just know what's happening with this.
Okay. Any other
But I
nominations?
appreciate it, Emily.
Thank you, sir.
Was that an official nomination of Joe?
Oh, are you nominating Joe? So we had a nomination for you.
She declined my nomination, which is okay.
Yeah, don't nominate.
Okay. And,
So I nominate Joe.
okay.
All right.
We have a nomination for Joe. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Any other nominations?
Is anybody going to ask me if I'm willing to do it?
Don't have a choice.
I saw how that worked out last time.
Yeah, no, it is. I will actually point out, because I did reach out to Marianne, because I am interested in not, getting any static for having been chair for too long.
It's not all cracked up.
This just isn't my year. Just maybe next
So
year.
I mean,
Second year's worse than the first.
there is actually another reason why trying to take turns in a year makes sense, is because Marianne's up for reappointment this year.
Am I?
Yeah.
Well, I thought it was next. I lost track.
Yeah, and
this coming.
this coming
Coming
summer,
year, right.
the new,
You don't
like-
want to reappoint yourself, I guess.
Yeah, that's just it. And then I'm up for reappointment the following year, and I don't want to be in the business
So
of
it would be
reappointing
make more
myself.
sense, yeah.
And I don't want to put you in the position of reappointing yourself. So, so I'm, and I
Time
do
flies.
think, I mean,
thought it was
it's.
in 2 years. You have 26. Wow, time flies.
No, I can't believe I'm up only 1 year after.
I mentioned to Jackie too that at least my main dates there are incorrect. I don't know what the 32 is, because I could be reappointed again 27 to 30,
But not beyond that?
but not beyond that, right? Because I was appointed in 21.
Yep.
You can do 9 years, right? 3.
Right, so
He had a full
that
term.
would be a
Full term in
The person who didn't get a full term, who didn't do a full term was me, right? I did 2 years.
So Jackie said she thinks it was wrong, but Laura Gem's out this week. So.
Yeah, we can check with
It's on
her when she gets
vacation.
back.
Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're
Okay.
the finance committee can count. So, yeah. No.
Joe's been nominated and accepted and seconded. Any further nominations? Do we have a motion to close nominations?
Motion to close nomination.
Second.
Okay, we'll have to do a roll call. I
Do we
guess.
have? We don't have.
We are no longer hybrid,
Oh,
so.
yeah.
Mark's gone, so.
So you guys
Alright, then-
do a
Don't see
regular
'em.
vote.
Okay, so just all in favor?
Okay.
Opposed? All right, and so we have nominations are closed.
Yep.
Let's vote on chair.
I'm
So,
about to say, I can take it from here, I think.
okay, yeah.
I'm
Well,
not
because we vote on, because that, we closed nominations, so
No,
now
we just closed
we'll
nominations.
do the ultimate vote.
This is the vote.
But they haven't voted to.
Oh, we haven't done the vote on
We thought we voted.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm
We don't know what's happening.
I thought you voted too. so I'm all-
Okay, so we're voting on the motion to, now we're voting on the
No,
motion
we're
to, we're being approved.
Yeah, you are 100% right. You are
Motion
100%
for
right.
Joe Carnahan to serve another term as chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, Joe, congratulations, you can take it from here.
All right. And like I said, I'm not going to do it again, because next year I will be up for reappointment. So maybe that puts weight on the question of vice chair, because I will be looking for a replacement in a year. So moving on to the question of vice chair, are there any nominations?
Go ahead, Emily.
I
Do it
nominate
again. Do it again.
I think you are trying. You're so good at motions.
I am good at motions.
So that's true.
Similarly, I'm in work explosion. But I feel like vice chair is less of a stretch than.
Just gotta read a lot of emails.
I mean,
I'm okay with that. I do that anyway.
I'm a firm believer in CCing my vice chair on emails, as Marianne has experienced. So she's right to warn you about that.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Anybody else wants to be nominated, speak now, please.
Yeah, I mean, are there other
Nominate yourself.
nominations?
Yes.
I mean, there's, there isn't anybody here who couldn't do it, in my opinion, so.
Not with the 4 month of waiting.
Okay, that was, if I was gonna nominate someone else, I was gonna pick you, so thank you for saying that.
Maybe next year.
Okay, all right, yeah, it might be.
I was saying, I was going to nominate you for vice chair if Mary Ann accepted the first thing, but then it'll go crazy.
Sorry.
I don't know what to do.
We'll change one thing at a time, and next year everything will be.
Next year we'll just do it all. That'll be
Completely
great.
different.
I think this is good.
All right.
It's good to give everyone a chance.
Yeah.
Okay, so, any other nominations? Right now, only one's out. So now I'm gonna actually do the 2 steps like Matt was doing and like I failed to follow.
Vote to, motion to close nominations.
Thank you,
Second.
Ed. Thank you,
Second.
Jeffrey. All right, so all in favor of closing nominations? All opposed? Passes, what are we? We're down to 7-0 at this point? All right. Then, yes, so all in favor of electing Emily as vice chair? Opposed? 7-0. All right.
That did not go as I expected, but thank you.
It's not bad. And
Yes.
You can still CC me on emails if you want. You can't break.
I can't imagine you not being a dedicated and active finance committee member.
Oh,
so,
yeah. I already got a half page of reports already here. So
yeah.
really, like,
Speaking
you know,
of which, thank you for the segue. We are on to liaison reports. Would anyone like to go first?
I really don't have one, but
Oh, well then, please, let's hear it.
It's about IMLD. I attended their meeting, which was an hour before our meeting. They announced that the interim GM that they had appointed, had resigned. So they now are looking to appoint someone else interim. So the person that was interim was Michael O'Neill. He was the director of operations. So he served for just a little bit, I believe just like 1 month, and then
Oh, so this
he
is the one
resigned.
after Phipps.
Yeah.
Phipps
Right.
resigned and then the interim.
So this is the interim, and
So
the
he
interim
resigned from the
resigned.
position or
Something's
completely
up
resigned
with
from RMLD?
He completely resigned from RMLD.
Okay.
Wow.
So RMLD.
That's a
Which means they probably were
Hot
missing.
update.
So, also I wanted to update you guys that they also have a hiring committee for the new general manager. They did go into executive session to discuss the pay for the interim general manager, and they will be looking, they're actively collecting resumes. There was a question that was asked on how long this process is going to be, and they will leave it open until that pool of resumes builds up, and they think that they have enough resumes. So it doesn't sound like they have a specific time frame in mind, but that's where we are right now. They went into executive session, so I had to leave to come in here, but it's kind of interesting.
It's intriguing.
Wow, yeah, that's excitement that I'm glad to be
When
not,
does the light
not be
stand?
closer to. Yes. Well, they do. I actually had a power outage the other week. Like literally the first time in, whatever it's 14, 13 years in Reading. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was like a block. It was like our block. That's it.
Squirrel.
All right. Something like that. All right. Other liaison reports. Mary Ann.
Okay, so I've got a select board one and then a mixed one that I'll probably throw over to Emily regarding like what I-
$1,000.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a general thing. It starts with, after our last meeting, and our select board member who's on the call is aware that I spoke to this. There became interest in making some money off Matera Cabin. We all think, good. This little Montessori forest preschool wanted to rent it. Good. But the rates they were offering were just like way below market rates. And so I had spoke at the select board meeting, even though it's not up to them, it's up to Conservation Commission, where I think at the time they were going to offer owe something like $9,000, and that was just well below what a lot of rents were, and there was a lot of underestimating of use. So I don't know where the negotiation stands, but why this came to my mind again is because several rec committee members reached out to me because of something that happened at the rec committee the other night, which is Emily's liaison. But as I understand it, and Jane will correct me if I have it wrong, because they said, I think it's someone from Conservation came to you and wanted to get $9,000, up to $9,000 of rec committee revolving money? Is that accurate?
No, that's not. No, I think that may have been what was said, but that's not
what
quite.
happened?
That's not quite what happened.
That's what was said in the meeting, but that's not the real.
The process that you just mentioned wasn't true, and the amount that was said in the meeting was too high. That was the amount that was said in the meeting, but it was too high. I can elaborate. Yep, okay.
Yeah, please do.
So at the select board meeting, July 15, as select board member Herrick referenced earlier, we had several different committees that were, putting in their
The
requests.
same 20,000, we talking the
Same 20 grand.
so everyone
That's
wants
correct.
some of it.
So the select board kind of agonized a little bit of like, how do we allocate this? We can't meet the need of the Conservation Commission. And so I said, let me see what I can do. And look within my department. Someone had called in and made a point that passive recreation, walking on trails and engaging in conservation lands is a form of recreation, and I think that is true. So I said, okay, let me see what I can do. It's a good point. So I spoke with the recreation administrator and said, are any of these expenditures that were in the packet for Conservation Commission aligned with how we use recreation revolving funds? Because recreation uses the Matera cabin to put on programming and things like that. And so through some discussion, he said we could fund the picnic table and we could fund the sign kiosk that Conservation had requested. So those two together, the sign is $3,100 and the picnic table is $1,600. So Recreation can make those purchases. The agreement was to do that in exchange for some nature-based programming that would be operated out of the Matera cabin by conservation members of the Conservation Administrator. This would be a one-time, not to be repeated sort of thing, but to be able to fulfill the mission that the Conservation Commission was seeking to do without looking for additional funds elsewhere in the budget. So it was, nobody from Conservation came and spoke to me. I offered it up at the select board meeting to see if I could look into that and make that work. I asked the recreation administrator to bring it to his board and have a discussion there before I brought it back to the
So now
select
it's like
board.
now we're four hands separated, and that's how people reached out to me.
Correct.
And they reached out to me just knowing, because I had asked, tying it back to this Mulberry Forest preschool that the school committee still won't even approve till next week, that I feel like it's great that there's going to be a use, but I think conservation needs to get a fair rate, especially if they're going to be using it, 35 hours a week. And then that money could help with, conservation things. But that's just one update that is an interesting thing, and I don't know if it'll happen. Just another update, which I think is more interesting, and Jane, you also played a role, and I also spoke at the last select board meeting, and Sharon as well, clarified the amount of the internal borrowing, and I wanted to follow up because I thought it was more than we perceived at select board. I thought we were thinking it was going to be 2 or 3 million, and apparently the state recommend is 9 million, which represented such a large percentage of our free cash that I wanted to just ask more about that. So the select board did approve that internal borrowing, and that will get paid back to our free cash when the actual borrowing goes out. Doing this will apparently save us, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000 in interest, something like that, Sharon?
Yeah, it was trying to make it so that we borrow all at the same time. We had borrowed for, we did a short-term borrowing for the field toss floor because it was the only project that needed money in May or June. And then I thought we might borrow for Killam and Recal like in July or August. And when we talked to the bonding agent, she's like, well, if we do a 9-month ban on the field house floor, that will bring us up to like January, February. Let's do borrowing in January. That way it sits within the time frame we can pay that ban off, or like, you can do it within 3 months of it maturing. So if you do that, then you kind of avoid the debt payment for fiscal 26. You can do more. We had a lengthy discussion and realized we could do a little bit more capital in fiscal 26. We'd save on, the debt issuance because we'd be issuing all those debts all at once. So we'd be issuing Killam, Pickleball, Recal, the field house floor as a permanent borrowing, and Birch Meadow Phase 2. So we'd be borrowing 5 projects all at once, and it costs us $40,000, $50,000 to issue debt. So you don't want to do it 5 times, And every time we do it, we have to do a bond rating. You don't want to do that. That's part of the cost. And so that was part of the decision. We didn't really know what we were going to do for internal borrowing, and I apologize for not letting you know that it was going to be that big. Like live and learn, we didn't realize that the cash flow was going to be that large for just a few months, but we had to base it off the cash flow that we got for the Center for Active Living and for Killam. And then last minute I heard that Birch Meadow was ready to go and they needed their funding, and so they weren't ready by June, but they're ready in July to start thinking about putting that project out there, and so they need funding to get started. So it ended up being a much bigger internal borrowing than I had anticipated as well, but it does save you from having to issue more than once, and then we're borrowing from ourselves, so we don't pay any interest. We're not paying somebody out for a ban. So there's a lot of savings to be
Right.
said
So
there.
I think that the question I forgot to ask, and it's occurring to me now, is as we do budget planning, and you have to certify your free cash and talk to the state, and we talk about free cash usage, are we going to be able to count the full amount once we're paid back, or are we going to be basing it on, now we're down to $8 million?
It doesn't get counted because it's happening in July. They're going to count our free cash as of June 30th with all the regeneration.
Okay, so even though
we borrow for ourselves after
we're
that.
temporarily taking it out, we're going to base our free cash usage in FY 26, no, FY 27.
Yeah, for FY 27 budget.
I'm sorry, FY 27 on what it will be when the free cash is paid back to us.
Yeah, so basically, it's as of June 30th, 2025, they will look at our results of fiscal 25 to set our free cash for fiscal 26. And we're kind of in advance borrowing from that pre-certified.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Almost like we're borrowing from in advance.
It's not exactly that it's counting after we pay ourselves back. It's actually that it's counting before we borrow from ourselves.
Yeah,
That's,
exactly.
yeah, I know, I was,
Yep.
it's the same thing.
Which if you pay yourself back in full,
They
is
require
exactly the
us
same
to
thing.
report to DOR, DLS, when we do an internal borrowing, so they can keep track of
Right.
that we've actually got that kind of reserves to be doing the borrowing, but also to make sure that we pay it back.
All right. Okay, so the last update, and this is may or may not result in money, is the select board discussed various money-making activities, including fees for accessory dwelling units, which I just talking the concept, that's newly allowed by the state, so I don't know if a lot of homeowners have been taking advantage of that yet. Fees for short-term rentals, which we may or may not even have a policy. I don't know how many people are Airbnb-ing in Reading, but, and the more interesting one, and Jane had an excellent analysis of this, was the idea of like advertising on our fields or putting things on the fences, like you see in Wakefield by North Ave, and I don't know whether that's sponsorship or advertising in. Correct me if I have it wrong, Jane, but I think you pointed out that your research on this showed if we went the advertising route, we would have to take all comers for advertising, even if something was arguably inappropriate to go put up on a fence, and it was better to have sponsorship.
Yeah.
So, and that was just my point, that those may be things that our select board is discussing in the fall. But if you want to add to that.
No, I think you summarized it nicely. We have to be careful. We have to either create a very tight policy about who we sell advertising to. Otherwise, you can open yourself up to, maybe folks who don't want to have advertising in front of kids on fields.
Or certain types, right?
Certain type, yeah, sure.
Cannabis ads or something.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to speculate, but we all have wonderful imaginations. So, especially Ed. So,
Nicely done.
thank you. Yeah, the sponsorship thing seems like a good way to go, and we'll have to bring some more back on that. But that was also the Recreation Administrator, Jim Sullivan. who
And we
helped
can be
with
more
that.
selective with sponsorship. We can turn down sponsorship without having
Correct.
a problem.
Yeah, and that gives, and we've talked with town council about this as well. We'll continue those conversations so that we don't navigate ourselves into dangerous waters. So we'll be very pragmatic as we go.
Right, and I guess the last thing, and I don't have the exact date, is I'll defer to Ms. Herrick, who's on, I believe you guys, I didn't stay for the agenda where you were going to form a water and sewer rate advisory committee, or you were discussing that. Did you guys end up voting to decide to form that committee?
I watched the replay earlier today, so I know the answer.
Oh, you know the answer?
I just want to remember the answer. I'm a little fuzzy on that one,
Oh,
sorry.
that's okay.
No, they didn't actually vote to form a
They just
committee.
discussed the idea of it.
Discussed the
All
idea,
right.
and then they
So-
compared with other communities that have such a committee, and
Yeah.
I think there was a
That's
lot
what I could get out of the money.
of questions about like.
Tax rate discussions coming in the next few months, and that's it for me.
Okay. If I could just jump in on the ADU thing at CPDC, they said that there has been an increase in inquiries about ADUs, but not an increase in applications.
It's quite an undertaking to, unless you have an in-law, that you're gonna, or something, or teens, like, what you're gonna do, it's really creating controversy in some surrounding communities, like Medford's gonna change their zoning, and they're gonna have like 6 units on I just know I'm from there, so I'm following it, and you could go really too far, like, 1 unit versus turning 3 families
The state
to
only
6
requires
families.
it's by right, it's 1 unit by right with the state law, I think.
Right, but I think they were
But
saying
wouldn't
that
that
if it's...
convert it to a commercial property, and that's not allowed? An ADU is not allowed in a commercial property. It's only on a residential property.
Oh, I'm just talking resident. Medford has a lot of like 2-family and 3-families, and they're just thinking if every one of those units is a condo and could have an ADU, then you could take the 2-family, become a 4-family, and a 3-family become a 6-family. And what about the parking? Anyway, that's what's happening there. I don't think we're in that boat because we don't have many of those kinds of units. We would be lucky to turn single families into with an ADU on it.
Small clarification on this topic, so the impact on revenue, you used the word fee, but I'm probably taking false precision here. It was, I thought the impact was that ADU construction counts as new growth. Is that right?
Is that it? All right. Maybe
Yeah.
I mixed my things. It
So we
was
don't-
fees
right.
on short-term rentals and ADU.
Now, if you proceed to Airbnb out if you Airbnb your ADU, then there's a tax you pay to the state that comes back to us, and that
like an excise
tax
It's a
we
whole
could,
other level
and we could
tax.
raise that tax. Yeah, it's currently 4%, and I guess
Could be 6.
a lot of
yeah.
yes, it could be 6. So
Up to 6.
yeah, I think that I saw in the packet it was something like we collected between $10,000 and $17,000 in that over each year. So if 14 is in the middle and you increase it by 50%, it would be $7,000, which is not gonna
Not going to solve anything, but it's more money.
It's gonna take a nickel off everybody's tax bill, but we'll take it.
One of those conservation requests.
There you go.
Well, right, and it would be enough to put 1 or 2 committees' requests, to bed, actually. So there you go.
Can I ask, since Jane, it sounds like you might know the answer to this,
There's no guarantees.
are all ADUs new growth, or is it only if there's like new structures? Like if you turn your attic into an ADU, does that count as new growth?
It's an interesting question because it's existing square footage, but it's not finished square footage. So it's
So it
really a
changes
question.
your assessed value? Is that?
Yeah, I think it would affect your
All of
assessment.
them, because you have to pull
I mean, but
permit
assessed
for that,
value is
right?
different than...
You would
Yes,
pull a permit,
If
you
pull
would
a permit,
pay
it
the
already goes
valuation.
into the valuation, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're putting another bathroom in for the
It's
ADUs.
already.
But like if you have an in-law that you're turning into an ADU,
Yes.
the
You have to
house,
pull a
house is the same, you have the same, but like, so that's new growth.
Yes, I would assume so, because the second you pull that permit, the value goes up, and now you have to pay more.
But I mean, you could put an addition on that
Yeah,
So the
increases the value, but that's not.
From what
You're
I understand,
asking if it's an existing,
An addition would
basically.
If you have like an existing.
It's already an in-law, it's already done. You're just saying now it's an
I know
ADU.
you tax on, it, but whether we
Instead
get
of
to
an
count.
I'm sure there's some
new growth.
Maybe it's not that much of a bigger tax increase versus like when we had downtown and we added all those new units and then that, remember it added like $1 million in new growth, that was still when Bob last year was town manager.
Yeah, but like if you're just adding onto your house and making it worth more, that doesn't change the total tax levy that can get collected, right?
So if something didn't exist before, like say you built an addition onto your house, that's new growth.
That's new
That
growth.
didn't exist prior. That square footage didn't exist prior.
That finished square footage.
We just got hit with all that, so.
Okay, well, it's.
Congratulations
Your taxes
on your
hit, right.
new renovation.
You're hitting close to home.
Yes, I mean, if you're the relative, no, this is an interesting question, because yes, if the house, your taxes depend on your relative value of your house to your neighbors. So if like houses that are painted blue become more valuable or something, you could, it doesn't change the size of the levy at all, but your taxes might go up and someone else goes down. But yeah, this is good to know that the additions and ADUs, because I was wondering if it's a new structure.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the real new growth would be whatever they do with the Eastern Gateway and that.
Well, that's,
We'll have to decide.
this is not going to.
That's years down the line.
Right. This is also indeed the amount of new growth we're talking about here. If CPDC has not actually gotten a single application yet, then
There has been an uptick in applications. We've had a ADU bylaw for a while.
okay.
It's now changed because of the state law, and that has not led to an uptick in applications.
Yeah, it's state laws by right and we.
It's by right. and
Okay, all right.
Our bylaw said that it had to be, you can only put in an ADU for a family member. And now the state says you can do it.
You don't even have to be living in the house, but.
correct.
Okay, so I should have more on the school stuff, but maybe I can wait for my turn. Who would like to go next? We're just at this point we're just going around.
You do whatever you're gonna do, man.
At this point we're just going around.
The recal committee met last week, and there's a little bit of some good news. So the construction estimate has come down about $1.3 million between schematic design and design development.
That's right.
I got that right. Most of that is part of it is because there's less contingency since we're further along in the process, but also we did a geotechnical survey and have been able to simplify the foundation, which is going to save some money. But some of the contingency might go back up. There's some discussion about we do it from like 10% down to 5% at this point, but then some of the members thought maybe 7.5 is more appropriate given the international trade situation. So, and then CPDC approved the childcare facility on Haverhill Street. The one that's been applied for on Main Street is still in process.
Oh, yeah, the Haverhill one went through quickly, because that one we had like a couple of meetings versus the one that's in between two houses with the narrow driveway on Main.
And then there was some discussion of updating our ADU bylaws, but it sounds like that's not going to happen before, at least not before November town meeting, but September 2026.
Please.
So I'll start with Rex, since Marianne brought up some of the stuff I wanted to talk about. So Jane, thank you for clarifying, because I have a question for Jane, question mark here. So that was great. Would like to start just acknowledging that longtime rec member Mike Coltman passed away unexpectedly last week. So that was a bummer. I knew him obviously very well from being on rec with him for quite some time. Very sad that he will not get to see his pickleball courts come to reality, but there will be a memorial service tomorrow at 5:30 at Memorial Park. They reorganized. Rich Hand, who's been on there for 25 years, is their new chair, so they're in great, capable hands. And yeah, I had some follow-up questions about the $9,000, but I feel like they were amply answered. But Jim also noted that they had about 20% less revenue this summer from their summer programming because of all the construction going around town, like some of the spaces were constricted. And they also noted that next summer they're anticipating the Coolidge Gym to be offline, which is the primary site for their summer camp. So they're already starting to think forward next year, how are they going to handle summer camp on rainy days, basically. But that's on there. And then just as a follow-up, the 9,000, I was like, that sounds like kind of a lot for what I was thinking was asked, so thank you for clarifying, Jane. But the rec committee, there was some voice that was, we have things that are on our priority list that keep getting bumped because we don't have adequate funding.
Like the inclusive program?
Inclusive programming and therapeutic sports and, unified basketball and that stuff. So, and they I think it was Bob Wyman maybe, also mentioned, if they lease out to Matera Cabin, they can have more revenue and we could do this. But, Jim, and then I talked later with Jenna, it sounds like, they're working kind of internally to figure out what's the right balance. They're talking about cohesive programming between the two to kind of work things out. So it sounds like town staff has it under control, not concerned there. And then been working, I volunteered myself or something, because of course I did, working with the community services folk to bring forward a plan for an operational plan for ReCal. So when they came to talk about ReCal, one of my questions was, well, like, how are we staffing? How are we lighting? Where's the money coming from to operate this building? And so I was talking more about it with Jenna, and she's like, you'd be great to help us with this plan. So we're starting to just kind of brainstorm, what is the tech support needed? What's the building maintenance? I know, I'm glad.
Are you planning the rec side or the
those kind of questions, Emily. That's the rule.
As a citizen. So. Just a volunteer to look at some stuff and
be great.
Because wasn't there some dispute between this Council of Aging says we want this place even at night and rec wants it at night? I thought they were still disputing over who was going to have all the uses of the spaces.
Some of the policies we're going to be dealing with is programming prioritization and how does this all happen. So
good luck.
Yeah, it's I feel like this was a mistake, but we're doing great.
Doing a great job, Emily.
We're going to COA on Monday to kind of say, here are the things because they see each group sees the thing that they need, but the building itself needs all these things, right? So I think the plan is to go and say, hey, we understand that you care about programming and you care about space, but we also need to care about and we'll get your input on these 3 things or whatever you want, and we'll get this group's input on these 4 things, however it's going to work. So I feel like it's getting the stakeholders to the table, making sure everybody feels heard to avoid knockdown dragouts. We'll report back because it's going to be spicy this summer, I think.
Oh boy.
I mean, are you the person determining, or are you going to get representatives from the seniors and representatives from? Do they feel like they have equal representation, or should they have equal?
That's the plan, is to make sure that the important stakeholders are going to be all talked to, and they're all going to feel really warm fuzzies inside.
So what's up with the Coolidge Gym? Is that on the capital plan and I just don't remember it? It's not available next year?
Something about the slipperiness of the floor. It has to be stripped and redone.
Another floor?
I didn't understand.
Well, no, if it's just being stripped and redone, then
It's not on the capital
it sounded
plan.
like it was
It's
something that can be
maintenance.
done
It's
in-house, but it just can't be
You just can't have a camp running around there.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Summer Slammer.
right. And we heard of in the context of the Fieldhouse floor, we heard a lot about what Joe Huggins and company do for floor maintenance for our existing hardwood floors. So that sounds like this.
Yeah, so that's all I got for you.
That's quite a bit.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I love it.
I should not talk to Jen anymore. Is really
You're learning your lessons, and this is a safe space for you to talk about them.
Yeah. All right.
So I got a quick one on
TV, but anyway.
I got a quick one on Killam.
How safe it is.
A couple things on Killam. We haven't met. Our next meeting is Monday, but I think some folks have heard modulars have moved from Killam to the high school, and that was kind of a precursor to starting to getting some of the work done that. Taking advantage of this summer to be able to do it, and we're able to use the modulars at the high school. They'll be used for pre-K, and then after the project they'll be used for like administration offices, is what it sounds like. We are similar to what John was saying about Recount. We are in the design, development, drawing, and specs. We'll get an update. We got those as committee members to review in the last few weeks, and we'll be discussing some more of that on Monday.
But we are officially going clockwise. So.
I have no report.
All right. So for me, I mean, so first, I mean, the liaison to the audit committee, which actually met for the first time in my time as a finance committee member, I think, and because we missed a year there, I remember asking Sharon about the circumstances. But anyway, so the audit committee met to review the RMLD audit, and which was very educational for me, it was interesting because it's not a budget. We're in the habit of reviewing a budget and nitpicking like, well, why did this expense go up or whatever? And that's not actually, the audit is more like, are the expenses what management says they are? People still ended up asking about specific expenses and things like the towns actually of interest to this group. RMLD's, the money that RMLD pays to the town actually went down slightly. And yes, and so, which, prompted questions. And because of course all the other numbers in their budget go up, just like all numbers in all budgets go up. Their costs went up, their revenue went up, and their money they're giving us went down. What gives? It's because the formula for the money they give us is based on kilowatt hours sold, averaged over 3 years. And apparently that actually has leveled off and turned down slightly, which, I don't, as a conservation-minded person, I love saving energy. On the other hand, as a finance committee member, obviously I would and a taxpayer, would have liked the money. So, but that all was.
It really went down even with more people with electric vehicles and chargers, you would think.
Yeah, I mean, it's because there've been
and all the people working at home, you'd think there'd be more electricity usage.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's partly things went up at the beginning of the pandemic because of everybody working at home. So that was part of what I think made it went down relative to that.
So
a bunch of us went back to work.
So if we went back to pre-pandemic per capita, are we like level? It's just we're down from the spike. Okay.
That's a good question. I don't know. But it was. But I mean, certainly RMLD has been pursuing various encouraging projects to encourage you to do a electric heat pump, get an electric car charger, those rebates for things. I wish I got an electric snowblower. I could have gotten a rebate on that. They have it all, but to try to encourage use of electricity rather than other sources of basically lighting things on fire to get energy. But yeah, so, and then let's see, so Community Preservation Act Study Committee is chugging along. We have finished, I think we may have already finished our round of everybody, REC gives a report, Conservation gives a report, Historical gives a report, Affordable Housing gives a report. We're now in the process of reaching out to other committees. And actually that started this week. Sarah Buculario and I went to the Town Forest Committee meeting on Monday. where they immediately proceeded to ask me about finance committee stuff. That's not why I was there. I'll get back to that in a second, actually. We're also going to other town groups that are not necessarily town government groups to a Reading Antiquarian Society meeting yesterday, since CPA money can be used for funding historic preservation of things owned by nonprofits as well as things owned by the town. Speaking of other committees, we don't have a liaison to town forest or to conservation or trails, but the town forest committee chair wanted to talk about, the town forest committee wanted to talk about was they're interested in trying to secure funding for invasive species control, especially in areas where dead red pines were removed. And it's I told them, I was like, it's getting increasingly harder to ask for money, just in full transparency. On the other hand, there are arguments made about protecting your investment. We had to cut down the trees for safety, but now if we don't control the invasives, it's going to be a mess. If we want to control them later, it'll cost more. So there's back and forth there. And then I actually chatted with the conservation administrator earlier today because conservation has similar interests for having a more predictable budget than what they've currently had. And certainly the current process where they go and we have 5 committees, have a little knife fight in front of the select board is a really why? I'm sorry, this is just and it's $30,000 of needs and $20,000 of money. Go. It's not a collaborative way to do this. So I'm glad to hear town staff actually talking to each other. That sounds like a collaborative way to do this. But anywho, so there's some interest there. I got to ask Chuck about the Montessori Forest School because questions about the amount. As I understand it, the way they arrived at the rate that they are. So first, they haven't actually made the deal yet to rent Butera Cabin to the forest school.
Tell the school that as we speak, they are having an open house meeting about it.
Well, but they haven't. Yes, but they have to recruit now, or they won't have any students to pay the money that they would be signing contract to pay. So there's chickens and eggs there. But anywho, so apparently this was town council's advice was to because you have to be careful not to use conservation properties like a profit generating entity, and so we have our established costs for if a nonprofit wants to rent the cabin, and so the agreement was to use that rate, and then the number in the select board packet, and this is going to be I think in the contract, is based on an assumption of 2 hours a day for every school day plus 30 days a year where they would be there for 4 hours a day, so 15 whole days, and then. I asked if what happens if they use it more than that. Chuck said that it had not been, the contract hadn't been put together, but that we should be able to ask them for if you use it more, you pay for it more. Assuming that's true, that's what I'd like to see.
Their website lists school days longer than 4 hours. They have 7-hour school days, so they have to account for where they're going to be all that time.
Yeah.
That's just if they're charging $20,000 for a year and saying we're giving you 35 hours a week of school, and they're telling Reading we're only going to be at the most 2 hours inside, and it rains all day. I mean, we had 11 rainy days in May. I just feel that's why I spoke up about the usage and what the wear and tear will be. We can arrive at something more realistic, but I didn't want to.
So
I've looked at this a lot, so maybe I have too much opinion.
I was also encouraged to understand that Chuck had come forward with a much larger figure, and town council told him that he couldn't get away with asking for that because we need to be asking for the standard amount that we ask any nonprofit for given projected usage. So if we're asking the same as other nonprofits and we are charging for usage, then
it's about the hours. It's about if they say, it's 2 hours, but we're really here 6 hours. Well, that's something different.
There's also a question about whether the rates are correct, since practically nobody rents the cabin for most of the time. It's not been a big issue, but the Conservation Commission could revisit those rates and raise them. but they'd be raised for all nonprofits, not for one school in particular. And I think those are all the updates for me. All right, back to the agenda then. Liaison assignments, because I feel like we're going to get to 9 o'clock without having done actual business. Actually, the conversation with Joe and about some
That was a lot of business.
That was a lot of good business. So.
And a lot of what we spoke
it's
about could
goofy
lead
the way
into
we're
the
doing this.
forum too, so.
Yeah. Yes, no, that's true. All right, so Jackie has, of course, pulled up the current liaison assignments. So I guess maybe I'll start by asking if there are people who have particular interest in, they especially want to keep, they especially want to change.
I didn't even know I was the library liaison. I don't remember. Sorry. Sorry, they're doing a building project, okay? That's my update. On their own money. Yeah, I didn't know I was.
The terrace project, yeah.
I'm happy with my assignments. I have to say that.
Okay.
Would love the opportunity to work on them one more year.
Yeah. All right. So I'm making some of my own notes here. Likes it. Whereas Marianne, that sounded like a request to swap with the
Yeah, I don't know.
library.
I'm happy. I feel like I've let you down because I do read their agendas and stay on top, but I haven't been reporting because I forgot. And charter review has been not that active, so I follow select board and I tend to follow CPDC, but John Sullivan's already covering that, so that's fine. But I like still following select board. But what else do you need help on? I mean,
Do we need trails and conservation?
So I was going to make that observation that we have other, I think trails and conservation can probably be lumped together because they are generally working the same properties and generally working with the same town staff.
Trails is not the same as town. We don't have anyone on town forest, but town forest feels like it overlaps with trails.
Yes, so trails technically overlaps with both.
Pardon me?
They kind of all overlap.
Well,
conservation's different because it's all people with wetlands on their property putting up a fence. And
right, and conservation does manage land, but it doesn't manage the types of it's funny, if you have a question about building your wetland in the town forest, it's conservation. If you have a question about maintaining a trail or managing invasive species in the town forest, it's town forest committee, not conservation. Conservation does not have ownership or stewardship of that land. This town forest committee does. But yes, I think there is probably these committees which are openly talking about interest in a budget and I'm certainly not dismissing the possibility.
Well, I'm willing to take on, I don't know, one of those. What did you say? You wanted conservation or?
Yeah, we can have,
Conservation, they meet at the same time as us, so it'll all be after the fact.
Both of them have also already reached out to me, but I shouldn't make myself liaison.
Yeah, no, and I know people on the board. I know someone on the town forest committee who can keep me updated informally if we need someone.
Yeah.
They seem to talk a lot about dog regulation.
No dog regulations on Monday night, believe it or not. So maybe we'll put down, I don't know, I should be looking at one.
So I have select board. You can lead me on charter. I don't know that a lot has been happening, and you can put conservation down and informally town forest, conservation / forest, I guess. I know it looks like 4, but they don't have a ton. Conservation will be the busy one, and select board.
Yeah.
Unless someone else wants it.
There's a couple of, the two former Conservation Commission members should probably look at each other and make faces or something about whether.
Oh, well, yeah. I'll back out of it.
John is just being real quiet here.
John, you want it?
Even though he was on Conservation for years. Okay. I was only on for 1 year.
He did his tour.
A short timer, but so.
I've heard they've gotten shorter since we were on.
They could not have gotten longer.
I'm sure they could have.
Well, with the thing is, we're not reporting back on all the homeowner stuff. It's only like their bigger issues.
Right. You can fast forward all the
it's nice, the recap does AI reviews, so it can get to the issues, and then it can focus you on where you want to go in the meeting, because it's gone through everything.
Yeah.
Or like, and then you can still fast forward.
All right. So actually, where does that put us? Okay, so I've still got conservation, town forest, Marianne, and I will be.
Yeah.
I can.
And just take library off me, I guess, unless
Yes.
nobody's doing it. I don't know. I wasn't very good at it.
Somebody should
Well,
do.
Joe McDonough was on library already. I don't think library needs more than one person until they start there. And they're not spending town money on them.
Yeah.
Though, I guess the town is managing the bid, even though they're spending their own money. Like
Yeah.
you guys put the thing out to bid.
Oh, on the,
Landscape.
still, everything has to go out to bid. Yeah, everything goes
Even
out to
if
bid.
it's privately run, right?
Well, yeah, because it's the trusting funds and so forth, but,
What's the project they're doing?
Terrace.
They're doing like a-
Yeah, Civitas is the designer.
Yeah.
You'll be able to look right out at it.
I know it's going to be right in front of my house, practically. Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Hopefully they don't have too many
beautiful.
noisy concerts.
I mean, it's going to be quieter than my kids.
Be good, so.
Maybe the new teen hangout near your house. Keep an eye on it.
Every parent's dream is that the team wants to hang out at the library, so I'll take it. It's strictly better than most of the alternatives I can think of. All right, so other changes here. Now we have our perennial topic of liaisons to town departments, where I don't know about everybody else, but that didn't. I didn't do anything with facilities. Other than participate in the discussions that we all did.
I sent one email after we reorganized and was like, hey, if you need anything, call me. And that was that. So, didn't happen.
Yeah, the department's still very vibrant.
Yeah, they don't need a whole lot.
Do we need a liaison for bylaw? Do we have one?
I don't know why we would need one. They can't spend money, basically. They're among the few committees that hasn't figured out a way to spend money yet.
Yeah.
Don't give them any ideas.
So if your community services should be the liaison to keep us abreast of what's happening in the Eastern Gateway, because we probably don't know what's going on with that.
Eastern,
That
I
falls
am
under
the finance
community.
committee representative.
Yes, that's true. We should
okay,
write
so
that
that-
down.
that works.
Yes, so I don't think that was captured in the official liaison list, but
Maybe it
for
wasn't
John
at that point a year ago, but yeah.
Eastern
Now it is.
Gateway Committee. Right, we voted to appoint John to the Eastern Gateway Steering Committee as the ex officio FinCom representative, so that just like I'm on CPA and he's on that, so, and
John, not me. Don't give me more work, Jackie. Thank you.
Aren't you recreation as well? Or you reported?
Mark took on rec last year, but I still do community services, which covers elder and rec and everything. So when he doesn't,
We want to hear about all the spiciness.
yeah, I would say there'll be a lot of updates, I suspect.
It's like RMLD's getting spicy too. That's going to be.
Yeah, I'll pick up anything anyone wants to throw down, but I don't feel like we need double and triple on anything, so that we don't already have.
Out of curiosity,
Select
Ed,
board's a big one.
Select
so
board
it's
and
good to
schools, I
split
think
that,
are good to
'cause-
have too. But
yeah, those are the ones that, and then, you watch the liaison reports at the select board meeting, and they have them, which they did manage to get that in
It
this
needs a
time,
couple
but-
of us to cover
Right,
everything.
I was gonna say,
Because nobody's
yes.
has time
We've
for
never-
all of it.
Yeah. And then for school committee, speaking of other big deal committees, we've got, is it Jeffrey and? Mark. Okay. So, Mark is also on the audit committee with me. He was there, which was good. He actually told me what we were going to do because I'd never been to one before, so it was a big help.
Did you chair it?
Yes, I was the chair. Right. Apparently, the FinCom chair is
Ed
automatically the
could have
chair.
advised you. He did it for years.
I told him. Didn't listen.
First thing Mark told me is you didn't come to the last one.
I'll let him be the chair, yeah.
So,
We'll be having another one soon. We're still waiting on our.
right, we got to do. I was gonna say we got to do the town sooner or later.
The chair.
All right. Let's see. Other. changes. Obviously, there's a couple folks who are not here. If I were maybe a little less busy in my own work, I might have remembered to email Mark and Joe, because I didn't know they weren't going to be here.
So I think they can
Mark was here for a bit.
Yeah, they can
Yes.
weigh in. They can weigh in on it.
Right. We can always, I mean, this is not carved in stone. If Mark comes back next week and says, I've never been to a school committee meeting and never want to, then sure, we can.
It's probably worth the vice chair probably checking in with them and just seeing if they need.
What's wrong with you, Ed? You all right?
Oh, God. All right. Okay. Are we done assigning liaisons and trolling each other?
I think so.
Well, I don't know about the trolling. But I think we're doing the
Well, the chair's trying to put a stop to
Plan the
that.
forum, is that our next meeting?
All right. Yes.
Yeah.
So, okay. Back to the. Why is my mouse not working on this thing? I need an external mouse.
Oh, yeah, forum before the other.
What is the
Yes. So
There's still
it's
5 more bullet points here, man.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of this agenda's a monster. And we skipped. Oh, by the way, this is I guess this is sort of technically future agendas because it's July 2026. But I was looking up whether the CPA committee needed to reorganize. Because I was looking at like what's the wording that says you have to reorganize, and does it accept ad hoc committees or not? And I couldn't find anything that says ad hoc committees don't reorganize. So I was like, oh well, then I better go through that particular motion. I'm not expecting. I mean, I might be able to recruit somebody to chair that. We'll see. But anyway, but yes. So I saw that the general town. It's not in the charter. It's in the general bylaw. Specifically says the committee should reorganize between June 1st and July 31st, and we didn't. We didn't meet in July at all. So next year we should probably have a July meeting.
We did the best we could.
Yeah, close enough.
So, yeah. No, it's not. It's not. Turns out the consequences for
So you're saying
violating-
it doesn't stick, and Marianne has to stay the vice chair. Is that what I'm hearing?
No.
Oh, okay.
Nice try though.
You know, I think technically, with you, we started off the meeting in roll call, too. We were supposed to keep roll calling votes, but,
Oh God, I don't know.
you know, we're not gonna,
I mean, it's I don't know the rationale for why
we've gone.
hybrid must be roll call. I've been told that.
Yeah, I know, so.
Yeah, we've had, like, Mark dropped out deliberately, so there's.
Yes, we
Yeah,
did.
so
Right.
maybe we
Yes,
have
it
it
saved
wrong.
us like an hour of voting on the budget. Not
Oh,
quite,
right.
but right.
One of the quirks, yep.
So, all right. So yeah. So I'm going to keep operating as though that's the. And if someone can find a source that says that that's incorrect, if you start hybrid, you have to keep doing this, then so be it. Also, I'll like kick people off Zoom before the meeting if we're hybrid for the budget vote, because we do not want to roll call every line of the budget. All right. Financial Forum 1 topics. Actually, I'll get the easy one out of the way, which is that I mentioned the CPA study committee is reaching out to everybody and doing presentations and soliciting input. Obviously, we'd love to come to Financial Forum to get the input of this committee. I imagine that would be the less spicy, we keep using that word, part of the Financial Forum. Although maybe not without controversy, but you can't talk about property tax surcharge without some controversy. How do we want to, so at a higher level, I understand that the big idea is we want to talk about the operating budget, the amount of free cash, the fact that we probably won't have as much as we did a year earlier, because that's what happens when you spend $6 million of it. So certainly we're interested in updated free cash projections. Other than staring at the line going the wrong way, how do we want to actually talk about this topic?
We could talk about override timing, that when do we think we would have to get to that point with the projections and usage? I mean, we kind of mentally thought 2028-ish, which is 10 years after the last override, and maybe we are shifted out a year and maybe not. Is it too early? I mean, that's only a couple of years away fiscally, right?
Yeah, I mean,
It's the elephant in the room. We've got to, you know.
I mean, one thing I think is that like none of us were, none of us were on the committee for the last override, right? I mean, I'm looking at the oldest timer we've got, and now.
But I remember people going to FinCom and begging for, give us this money out of free cash to keep language in the schools, and those kinds of, I remember all of it, and keep middle school foreign language. I remember tons of meetings on that.
Yeah, we had a lot of forums leading up to that, for sure.
Right, there was the failed override in 2016, and then there was the 2018, but leading up to that, we got when 16 failed, we got in 17 all of the school superintendent, and then I don't recall all the townside cuts, but the foreign language was a big one. And just...
I think on the town side, we just hadn't replaced some positions that vacated. I think that's how we brought our budget down on the town side attrition.
I know the library lost its Sunday hours. I mean, there were like little things. But the schools, where it was kind of more the layoffs and the cutting of major programs, and let's get rid of Latin in the high school and those kinds of things. Jeffrey, you had high schoolers at the time, so you might have
well, and I
more
was
in detail.
the treasurer of the Yes for Reading camp.
Right, so you could...
Yeah, I mean, it was the middle school that they were going to eliminate so right now there are 2 half years of foreign language at the middle school, and they were going to eliminate foreign language in the 7th grade. You'd only have a half year in the 8th grade, and so when you got to the high school, you'd essentially have to do that all over again, and move from the middle school model, where they had these teams that work together, to a junior high model where the kids just kind of randomly scatter around and they don't have a cohesive educational team that works together to say, here's how we coordinate the lesson plan so that, your science project has some writing part that works on the So, I mean, it was
as a current middle school parent, I understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, programmatically now, we've even, with the increases in the budget, we've added more things. Now middle school has a language survey in grade 6 where you try the different languages, which they didn't have anything like that before. There's just more offerings, and then the high school has all the added innovation pathways.
Yeah.
So there's just more things now. I guess you could look at it if we had some worst case thing. Well, now there's more added things to cut, so that not that we'd ever want to do that, but
I mean, I do feel like
we're not cutting into core curriculum to meet the state requirements.
I mean, I guess the question that I don't want to ask, but we have to have the answer to in order to justify ever having an override, we have to talk about what we would lose if we didn't. And so...
But it's sort of early for that, this financial forum.
Yeah, I mean, that's
the key for me will be the free cash, so we can go on building the budget.
All right, but when are the union contracts up? That's the big one.
2027.
All right, so that's just what I see what's happening in the other towns, what's killing them, is that will be the thing, what school committee, they're negotiating, the town's negotiating. What kinds of things can we agree to so that we can agree to a certain free cash usage, and we don't have to say it, we could just say, these are the things that we'll be discussing, I think, to let the public know, right?
Yeah, I think that's better, yeah. I mean, to go into the minutia of...
Oh, no, we can't give away a negotiating position, but we could say, this is, it's not so much program cuts, personally, my thought is paying the union contracts, because that's, salaries are our biggest expense.
Yeah, correct.
And controlling, and we have more positions maybe now, too, than before, so that's more, like in the schools, we added.
No, we did add the assistant principals and adjustment counselors and so forth who've done a lot of good
Assistant principals
stuff.
are non-union, I think, I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but I mean, you gotta pay them, so.
Yeah.
And you gotta provide health benefits for them too, which is what kills us. That's the thing that grows, ahead of revenue.
So I guess what we can talk about is something like, Sharon, you had in our June meeting where you had the unexpected,
20%, like the health insurance increases, right? And the kinds of things that we forecast, trash, that we do forecast that'll impact next year's budget. And
We're wrapping up the trash
Yeah, we're getting
now.
close on the trash now.
oh, so
Yeah,
that,
I was just going to say.
would we have something by the financial forum?
So we normally would, yeah.
17th,
September.
I think.
You think we'll have it by?
I think it'd be close, but we're in the middle of it right now. We have the bids.
We're doing, is that an early financial plan? Because September?
I mean, they've happened in September and
I mean,
like.
we're always trying to work around the Jewish holidays every
Yeah.
year because that's.
Yeah, this is before the Jewish holidays this year, and then, I mean, what we've done in the past, like last year, we had 2 forums, but also last year, we had, an entire forum for Killam and Recal.
We did.
Because usually, I can remember prior to, like, if we're not doing projects and stuff, I think we've always done around Halloween, like October was like, when I was giving you accommodated cost and free cash and all of that. Now, I could have some projections of those things, but if I'm not gonna have the rubbish completely buttoned down, the accommodated
No.
cost will be up in the air.
No, we will have it, if you need, do you need it buttoned down by the 17th?
Well, usually once I present it, I don't like to change it. So once I've presented it to FinCom, I would like it to stay this, pretty much the
All right,
same.
well, Wednesday, the 24th is Rosh Hashanah,
Yeah,
so
so
we're not
no,
doing it
that's
that.
right.
Yom Kippur
Right,
goes
that's just it.
Wednesday, October 1st, so I think we were either going before that or after.
I mean, the question here, what we have to like work backward from is voting on guidance on free cash usage.
Usually that's like, not that first meeting, but.
We did it on October 7th
No,
or
we would do,
something.
right, so what we did, yeah, so generally we've had it, like last year what we did, and I think worked well, is we had a financial forum that covered topics relevant to free cash usage, and then that wasn't the Killam and Recal one, and then we voted on free cash usage at a regular meeting in October.
October 9th last year.
And then we had a separate financial forum to talk about things that are, outside the operating budget, Killam and Recal. I don't know if we have need for a second forum this year. I haven't heard anybody.
Last year, we had the forum on September 18th, so.
Oh, so yeah, so
around the same
17th is earlier, but not by much.
The process vis-a-vis the rubbish recycling contract was we opened the bids last week. Excuse me, the proposals.
Yes.
We're doing a proposal process. We're meeting with some of the vendors who sent in the proposals. We are pushing them. But did we push them today?
Oh, we did.
I think I pushed
That's the
hard.
process, but we're trying to get the
Yeah,
best
we're
price.
pushing, and there's a lot of factors in these proposals. This is probably the most complicated contract I've ever worked on. Accepting big, construction projects is massive.
Are there things you're trying to do to mitigate what's happening now? Like the
Oh, yeah.
union things? Because we're lucky we're not subject to the strike.
Very lucky.
Thinking
are
of the
very lucky.
future, whatever we're doing, we want to keep that
Oh,
up
yeah.
so that.
We got that.
Yeah, we got 5 proposals to that. They were from good companies.
That itself is fabulous news. I mean, it's
Yeah,
right.
It's not going to come in less than we are now.
Well,
Nobody was expecting that.
right.
I just want to make sure it's out there.
That's a miracle. That'd be a miracle.
No, that's a good. I was going to say that's I'm about to say this has turned into the comedy.
sorry.
We are now officially in the comedy part of the evening. Yes, no.
That's my fault. But yeah, so it is our goal. It was our goal through this whole process. We spent a year on building this contract, a year, maybe a little more, so that Sharon would have the number for accommodated cost by the September meeting.
Yeah.
That's the goal. So we hope to have a notice of intent to award in advance. We have to get it in as early as possible because whichever vendor we go with will need to procure a new truck, more than likely, or two. And so that there are lead times on supply chain to get the trucks. So that's another factor. So
And is the commencement would be the following
July 1. July 1.
Oh wow. So yeah. So 6 months is not a lot of padding there.
5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good luck.
What I was gonna say about this is that for the I think having the obviously we'd like to have the most precise possible and most highest confidence around the free cash numbers at the forum. But on the other hand, if we're not actually voting on free cash usage at that, then it's not the end of the world if there is a,
It's kind of early
we think
to
it's
have
this, and then, right, exactly. No.
Discussing, you vote on it at a regular meeting.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't intend to vote on it at the forum.
I could give you an estimate on that date, but it certainly wouldn't be a certified number, and part of that free cash calculation is any fund, like a grant fund that's in deficit, it's as if they borrowed from the general fund, so that gets deducted.
Yeah.
But we have through September 30th to collect those funds, and it doesn't get deducted, so the numbers are moving until
Yeah.
September 30th, so they could be up or down, so I can give you an estimate, and then when it's certified, it will give you those numbers as well.
And we have the past spreadsheets about what we think the usage would need to be.
I can
whatever
give you
the
those
amount is.
spreadsheets as well.
Right, so that-
Once I start, the numbers are still kind of moving for fiscal 25. We're just starting to, close it down, and so I couldn't give you any kind of projection
Yeah,
on
it's going to be probably at least what we used last year, I would think.
What, the regeneration?
No, I'm sorry, the free cash usage. It's not going to be less than what we.
Free cash usage year over year wouldn't go,
down.
Isn't going to go down, presumably. That's,
No, it's going to be at least the 6 million.
Right.
Yeah, and I can't imagine it being,
On the revenue side, I can see the numbers are close to $2.8 million of regeneration, somewhere between that and $3 million. So that's helpful.
Yeah.
It's the expense side, the numbers are still really moving, and we haven't got all our entries in, and so I can't really quote that, but.
We'll have more information.
Yeah.
I see take a question from Karen here.
Oh, she's got her hand up.
Yes.
None of us
It's
look
like
at
almost invisible in that background.
So it'd be great to have everybody at the forum, hear the trash contract situation. But this committee, I was reminded this committee also discussed changing insurance formulas that employees pay. And I was wondering if, I'm not clear whether that, to Marion's point, I understand salaries are a huge component of the budget. I'm not understanding whether that changing the insurance formula is something that would be part of contract negotiations, or is that separate? But I was thinking
Is that the insurance payout? Is that a payout?
She's talking about the split for health
the split.
insurance.
Oh.
That is a negotiation with the
split.
piece.
Yeah, it's
That might be
different than
worthy.
union negotiations. We have
Okay,
separate.
that's separate.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
That might be a worthy financial forum topic to sort of educate people, what are other communities doing? This is something we take seriously. And then let me just be a devil's advocate and say, so backing up, since COVID, since ARPA, since all of the good times when the economy in Massachusetts state revenues were great, coffers were full, we've been very generous in spending. And so why would it be inappropriate to say, okay, the pendulum's swinging the other way, and Finance Committee is going to recommend a lower percentage or a lower absolute number? Why would we assume y'all wouldn't do that?
I think we said that last year. Didn't we? You mean like a less percentage increase in the budget?
Yeah.
Right, I think even last year I remember the school committee chairs sitting here and saying, we want this year, but we know it won't be 3.5 this year, it might be 3 next year, or 3.25.
I think we're thinking like 2.75.
Yeah. So
We're trying to
whatever
keep
the
it
number
under
was, I
3.
think we were going to go back off 0.5%.
I think we all kind of got the message that this is the last year you're going to get this healthy
Yeah, I
budget,
had my
and you're going
little
to
sheet that was
be,
handed out.
going the other way the following year.
Yeah.
And the good news is I'm not clear, and I'm going to be clearer by whenever your financial forum is the state came through with a healthy bump for per pupil funding, and that has got to be super helpful for the school department. It would be great if we understood that. I don't understand how school funding works, but they were supposed to be getting $150 per student. That should help a lot. I wonder, could we have the superintendent present to us on how that impacts the budget? Because I also hear that Reading is special, and we don't have the normal, we're grandfathered or something, we don't have the normal funding formula. So, I'd love for people to really understand, what is it? Did you get a great bump from the Millionaires Surtax Fund or not? That would just be my input. Thank you.
So I want to go back to the topic of scheduling, because so we don't have a need for 2 financial forums this year because we don't have a bunch of extra topics like Kel and Recal, and obviously we'll know more in mid-October than we do in mid-September, possibly a lot more. But then, on the other hand, we want to have a financial forum before we vote on recommendations and guidance for the budget. So when do what's the deadline for voting on recommendations and guidance for the budget? I mean, that's input that you all need in order to work on the budget.
Yeah, I mean, we're working on some budget predictions already and salary projections and whatnot, but once we have that number, then we really know. So after that, we go to the select board in December, we go to FinCom again in March. In the meantime, I get the budget with Sharon, we balance it. So I mean, historically it's been September, October, no later than that, because then we're into town meeting and holidays and whatnot, and we need some more time. But October would be fine if that's when you voted, I think, Sharon.
Yeah, it's October, she said on there, October.
So,
Vote on
but I mean,
October.
just
So we can have a forum on the October 8th and then make our vote on the 22nd of October, and that wouldn't be too late if we blew off September? Is that? Let's look at the agenda here.
I mean, I feel like
We have
September
better
17th, I think that because we've had a lot of topics, we've had multiple forums in the past because we were talking about projects. So I think that's where we started to get into the September forums. But I think that it doesn't matter to me. I just know the number would be more solid if I got to October somewhere to give you a more solid estimate of free
Right,
cash.
and October 8th is like the soonest we could meet because the 1st is right before Yom Kippur.
Yeah.
I mean, I still could give you an estimate, so it's really entirely up to you, but I feel like, you'll get a better estimate.
Do we need a September? Do we need 2 forums?
No, I don't. That's just it. I don't think we do. I haven't heard anybody put forward topics other than the information that we need.
You can get updates on the buildings.
I mean,
on the big capital projects.
Oh, I see 2 is right there.
But I don't see anything that requires
Bonus.
Yeah.
2 meetings. I mean, you just might have a.
I was going to say, I mean, we can include, so that's true. We can include updates on the buildings because they're not going to be as long as the presentations we had of the buildings before because we're not making a decision about $100 million.
Yeah, you could have an update on it. It's up to you. I mean, updates on where we're at. And
that's fine. So in terms of topics for financial forum, we have all the free cash projection stuff and updates on, some of these accommodated costs.
usually we start with free cash and accommodated costs, and then I'll give you an idea, what each operating budget, and we're going to be aiming for much lower numbers. And what they cost, for free cash to fund 2.75 or 3%, 2.5%. And we've been working kind of with the select board to try and identify areas where the forecast is coming in advantageously for us and bringing down that free cash use for fiscal 27.
So, if we cancel, or if we only do one, which one does it, should we choose? The September one, or
we'd be canceling the, so originally, prior to this conversation we're having right now, I thought we were going to have one in September, and then we wouldn't need the one on the 29th because we wouldn't have anything else to discuss.
But if the stuff for Sharon we don't need, she's not going to have the stuff for September. Right. So why don't we just do one in October?
It sounds like where we're going with this is, and this is requiring larger changes to the spreadsheet that Jackie's presenting, would be, not having a September financial forum, having a financial forum, I'm going to have the 8th proposed. Interesting, I had the 8th on my calendar as our meeting, but that, either way. And then, is it not Alt Shift 5 in Docs anyway? It's Alt Shift 5 in Google Docs, but anyway. So yeah, and then so instead of having, so basically we'd be swapping the order of those. It'd be Financial Forum.
Financial Forum 1 on October 8th, and then the vote, the recommendations, guidance, and everything on the 29th.
Perfect, I'll be here on the 29th. I'll miss
The only problem is we'll need to
be way
print the warrant for the subsequent town meeting, so we would have to have the vote
sooner.
because
We still need that on the
the
8th.
warrants have to be available on the 27th.
So
We have to get them to print.
That was supposed to be 22.
So maybe we can
yeah,
combine
so go with
the Financial Forum.
yeah. So let's go with the 8th and the 22nd. What about that? Yeah, there's no reason for it doesn't need to be 29th. It could be the 22nd instead.
That would give us 2 days to get them printed.
Well, okay. So how do people feel about the? I mean, if that's the 15th, the 8th and the 15th.
Well, just for what it's worth, the library, community room A and B are free on the 8th.
I was gonna get to the part where we're totally screwing up any room reservations that might have been already done, but one problem at a time. From a scheduling point of view, assuming that we can wave a magic wand and create conference rooms, what's on the screen here, Financial Forum on the 8th, getting back together a week later to actually vote on the warrant articles and the guidance, with the benefit of the input that we got at the forum. Does that look good schedule-wise?
Does that give us enough time to print the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, the 15th is probably not bad.
Yeah.
The 22nd was cutting it close, it sounds like, which I hear that.
And the 15th, the rooms aren't available, just for, you don't have to do the library, you could do the high school library too. I'm just talking Reading Public Library.
So
Anyway.
For your meeting?
Well, the 15th is just us.
Yeah.
Right. No, but I was just talking forum, if you wanted a bigger space. We always can get the high school library, because we've had it before, but just for what it's worth, the Reading Public Library shows that room available on the 15th. The conference room, the combined thing.
Yeah, we want the financial forum at the library, but your meeting, I would think.
Right, so that's, anyway, the 8th is open at the librry.
Okay.
So if these,
Does that give you guys enough time?
That gives me enough time.
Yeah, I think so.
I just feel like that extra couple of weeks will be, possibly more flexible.
Right. All right, and then yes, and those are hopefully are the correct locations. Jackie will confirm that, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we'll make sure we can book that library room, and then it would be somewhere in town hall, figure out, or if there's no larger room in town hall, we could look at the school library, but I'll have to see what the select board room practical, I think, right now.
Yeah. So.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, conservation is usually already booked the 2nd and 4th, I think, but that's actually the 3rd. 15th is actually the 3rd Wednesday, because the 1st is Wednesday, so.
Yeah.
So if they're
trash.
well, so there's.
It's a Monday, actually.
Yes, no, exactly right. The,
I'll be away on vacation. It's my birthday,
All right.
by the way.
All right.
So, have we successfully scheduled our financial forum, and we have talked about topics for it? So, do we need to meet before the financial forum? I mean, it's another 8 weeks, which, I mean, no, I mean,
can't think of
yeah.
a reason.
All right.
Well, for what it's worth, conservation meets the 8th and the 22nd, so they'll be here, they won't be.
Cool.
So
So
if
yeah,
we
so
met
we have a shot at the select board room on the 15th.
Yeah, according to their schedule here. So we'll be meeting 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, after meeting once over in a 3-month period. So.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That still works for us, so we get the good room each time.
No, we have to do a hearing on the budget. We don't have to do a hearing on the vote on the free cash guidance thing, even though that's actually the really interesting question. But yeah, the charter says you have to have a hearing on the budget, I believe. So we actually did that this year.
The first time.
The first time.
None of us knew.
Like, that's what I get for reading the charter. So.
Wasted energy.
Crazy talk, I know.
Exactly. Does it make sense for us to keep like just a placeholder for the 17th in case we wanted to add things to the financial forum agenda? And if we don't need it, I mean, since we're here now and have it, we could always cancel it if there's nothing. It's probably easier to do it that way than
Like a
trying to pop
regular-
one in.
Right, no, I understand. I think that might be prudent. And we're the finance committee, we're big on prudence. Making
If
a
nothing
call
comes up, we
closer
cancel
to
it.
it,
Yeah.
then if we don't have, enough for the agenda, I think it's I'll consult with my vice chair.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, we can
So
always
good.
hold it.
I should have said that when I made my
Hold it.
suggestion.
So, okay, yeah, no, I think that's fair.
But in terms of telling people, like when I report to the select board, I will say it's likely that it's going to be moved to October, right?
Oh, yeah, so I think the dates for the forum is set. I think that part is set. So
That's good.
The only thing that's up in the air is whether we need to meet, the finance committee needs to meet again before the forum.
So
Yeah, so,
maybe you and I connect about financial forum agenda, and then if we feel like there are questions we want to bring back to this group, we have it, and otherwise we don't. How's that?
sounds good to me.
Great.
All right, and then in terms of the rest of the scheduling stuff, is there any questions or anything that's?
Everything else will probably follow the
Everything's pretty
same
mechanical.
schedule that we had
I
last
mean,
year.
that's one thing about being the chair of this committee, that if there was any discussion on the organization, I was going to say is like, the chair does, compared to the other committee that I'm a chair of, this is nothing because the agenda is basically dictated for us. It's the budget schedule.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of discretion. Like, do we want to decide on free cash? No, you're going to make a decision on free cash. But it's not.
We just kind of force it on you.
Right, it's going to happen, and if it, so, all right.
So, in light of the comment earlier about how we're supposed to reorganize in July, do we want to go ahead and put that on the schedule? Because if the June meeting goes away, then when would we decide how to?
I think that's July, so that's not, so it's actually be July 2026 is what, which is in
that's fiscal
fiscal year.
27,
Right,
yeah.
but looking at the 2026 appearing before January, I can see that we're talking calendar years here. So, by calendar years, so July date TBD, I mean, I could pick a Wednesday in July out of a hat. I'm getting loud nonverbal cues here about wrapping up this meeting, by the way. Everybody is yawning and packing bags.
The heat was turned off 3 hours ago.
That was my hint.
That's what I mean, the AC.
Wait, I don't want the, yes, why is that? I don't
The
want
AC is off.
And all the lights are off.
It's at 8
Well,
o'clock.
those turn off quickly, which
There's
they're
subtle
saving power.
messages to
The air conditioning
All
turned
right.
off at 5.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know whether it's the 8th or 15th or whatever of July, but yeah, TBD is fine. I think we don't need to. We have
I think it's
budget
yeah.
chances between now and then. All right,
I know
back to
opportunity
all right.
on
What else on this agenda do I need to make sure we do before we? Yeah, I mean, I don't. Well, actually, I'm going to acknowledge the topic about communicate. I don't think the select board. Did I miss something, or was there not actually an official response to the select board or from the select board about the topic of?
No idea.
If you all talked about it during your meeting, I missed it, I'm afraid, but I don't think it's come up. So, all right, I mean, that's fine. There've been.
You asked us for something, I was like, I don't know what this is.
No, I mean, it was not really, I think. So, all right. Moving along, we've talked about future agendas. So, yes, prior meeting minutes, which I totally looked at.
Motion to approve. Motion to approve June 25th's meeting minutes.
Second.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Andre. I'm trying to scroll down to them. Do people have discussion while take one last look? We had a lot of discussion. There's that whole complex police department debating with itself, and then somehow two unions got in a fight and the town lost. Oh well. All right. I don't have anything else. Does anyone else have any comments to the minutes? All right. So then let's vote. All in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as presented?
I will abstain.
All opposed? And one abstain. So 6-0-1 with Ed abstaining. Jeffrey, sorry. That's why we.
It's late. It's late. Use our calendar.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you, John. We have a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that one's unanimous. Thank you all very much.